Hello, everybody, and welcome to B2B Tech Marketing Day 2023. We can see that a lot of you are still logging in, so we're taking it a little bit slow here in the beginning, just to make sure people can connect to their sound and get the tech out of control. Great. Today we're actually streaming live from both BigMarker and LinkedIn. So wherever you're calling in from, welcome. We're streaming live from Gothenburg, a rainy Gothenburg. I hope the weather is better where you are. But we have a very exciting day ahead of us. A lot of interesting speaker session to look forward to. My name is Cecilia Bylund, and I'm CMO at Brightvision. And I will be your main host today. It's great. We can see I will get some reactions, emoji reactions. That's fantastic. Together with me, I have Emma, who will be helping me manage the event here today. Do you hear Emma?
I'm here. Hi. Hi, everyone out there. My name is Emma Kotka, and I work as marketing project manager here at Brightvision. And I'll be the side host of the event today, and I'll be managing all your questions that you have for the speakers, or if you're experiencing any other tech stuff, I'll be here for you.
Great. Does it seems like people have getting the tech under control and stuff, Emma? Should we continue?
Seems like everything is under control, so we can go ahead and continue.
Fantastic. So what can you expect here today? Well, what worked for your marketing in 2020 isn't likely going to work in 2023. The marketing landscape has changed dramatically the last few years, which made it harder than ever to generate good leads and traffic. So we understand the challenge B2B tech companies fails when it comes to marketing. So that's why we have put together this event. So you can get the right tools to succeed with your marketing investment for 2023. Great. And we continue with a fun part. So today we have an exclusive event offer. You will get a free custom content audit if you are one of the first 10 to reply. So you can either write an email to emma.kotka@brightvision.com, or you scan the QR code, come to a landing page, and you submit the form. And this offer is worth 1,500 euros. So take this opportunity to get your content to the next level with our strategist. We have had offers like this before in our events, and we have gotten some great feedback on them, so they're very popular. And many actually turned into happy clients. So it's been very fun to see.
Exactly.
Take this opportunity and be fast.
Exactly. So who will we be listening to here today? So we have a fantastic lineup of 6 speakers that will keep us busy until around 5 p.m. today. So that's very exciting. I won't go into detail about their sessions. Instead, we will watch a little summary and listen to them, what we can look forward to. So I hope this video works a bit better than the first one. And there we go.
Hello, my name is Whyman, and I am really excited about speaking at the upcoming B2B Tech Marketing Day on the 30th of March. My talk is all going to be about achieving growth in a slow economy, and I'm going to be sharing some insights and some stories about how you can get more results from your marketing by doing less, by being smarter about what it is that you're doing, and also sharing insights that have enabled me to generate multi-million-pound sales pipelines using limited sales and marketing resources in the past. Come and join me on the 30th of March, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you all there.
Hey everyone, I'm Maike, one of the project managers here at Brightvision. Come and join me for my session on Rethinking B2B Marketing, moving beyond traditional campaigns. We will make sure to give you some real-life examples of our day-to-day work with clients and also in-house, making sure that we can analyze a little bit these challenges and how we can actually rethink our current marketing approach.
Hi, my name is Andy Crestodina. I'm one of the co-founders of Orbit Media. We've done like 1,000 website projects over the last 20 years. On March 30th, I'm going to walk through some of the most practical, actionable, specific things that you can go do right away to get better results from your platform. It's a webinar, it's free, it's with Brightvision. We're very grateful for their help. And I'm really gonna lay it out in a prioritized order. You're gonna leave with a page of notes. I promise a lot of specific and actionable things. Join me then. See you there.
Hi friends, I'm Ahava Leibtag, and I'm super excited for B2B Tech Marketing Day, which is going to be held this Thursday. I'm going to be talking about plain language in the B2B buying journey. A lot of people think plain language means dumbing things down, but that's not at all what it is. It's actually a formula for how to attract attention from your audience and how to make sure that they engage and consume your content so that you transform them into a customer. I'm excited to see you there, and I can't wait to have our session.
B2B brands want meaningful emotional connections and respect brands and aren't scared to have an opinion. They're frustrated they're not getting that. In my session, I'll show you how to unlock the potential of B2B buyers by going bold with emotion and relevance. Looking forward to seeing you there.
All right, so we will soon hear more of these speakers. But first, I wanted to let you know that you can find this agenda in the handout section in the right-hand side of the chat. And as you see, the agenda will move quite fast throughout the day, but a lot of exciting sessions. But yeah, that's the agenda.
Great. And just a little bit short here, who's behind this event. And behind this event stands Brightvision. And we are a result-driven marketing agency helps IT and tech companies grow. So we work with all B2B tech companies. The logos you see here are the ones that people recognize. But we help the full spectrum of IT and tech companies, from startups to large enterprise. And we have a niche target group, B2B tech, but we have a broad range of services. So based on our client needs, we put together a team of relevant specialists that can contribute with different competence. So on these slides, you can see some of the services we offer, everything from telemarketing to ABM to inbound marketing. And we've been operating in business since 1999, so we have over 20 years in business.
That's right. All right. So before we dive into the speaker agenda, we thought it would be fun and interesting to do a little poll together to warm up. So we will use mentimeter.com and build some word clouds together. And to join, you can just simply scan the QR code with your phone and you can just scan the code you see on the screen there. So we'll wait a couple of seconds to let people scan that code.
Great. I know it's a little bit delay on LinkedIn too, so we can keep that in mind. It's a couple of minutes, I think.
Yes. But there we go. And if you didn't have time to scan the code, there is also the option to enter the number that you see up there. Great.
And we can see challenges is coming in. Middle of the funnel, valid leads. Yes, we understand that struggle. See here, we're building out a word cloud. AI is definitely a topic that we will ask our speakers about today. It's on everyone's agenda, I would say. Great.
Interesting to see. Budget seems to be in the middle there. Budget, valid leads, engagement.
We get some in the chat too. Quality leads, top of the funnel, prioritizations. Yes, they're all challenges that we recognize, and some of them will be highlighted in today's event. Hopefully, we can sort some of these challenges.
Exactly. But yeah, this was super interesting to see. Thank you so much for answering this question. It will keep going, but I think we should move on to the next to the second poll there.
Yeah, this will be recorded, so we will share the results, of course, with you.
Exactly. And the next poll question that we have is regarding a really hot topic right now. It's AI. So what AI tools are you planning to use to be more effective with your marketing in 2023? Let's see if we can get any answers there.
Yeah. I'm sure you're all using ChatGPT. Exactly. It would be nice to see something else too. We've been actually trying out quite large AI stack here. So yeah, Google AI, Grammarly is great. Yeah. And can't wait for GPT-4 to come too.
Yeah, exactly.
We have Canva, some is using, some are using none of them. ToughSpot, I get see too, Canva Magic, Microsoft Designer.
Yeah, a lot of different ones.
Yeah, a little bit less examples than unexpected. But I think if we do this word cloud within a year, it will look completely different.
Yeah, but for this, like, if we would have a winner, it would be ChatGPT, I guess.
Looks like.
All right. Thank you very much. Super interesting to get your insights on this. All right. And before we let the first speaker onto the stage, I just wanted to inform you that we will have a little Q&A and engagement competition today. So the top 3 most active attendees here today that comment and send questions to the speakers will be rewarded towards the end. They will get one of these Brightvision thermoses that we have here. So make sure that you drop your chat questions at any time, and we'll bring them up during the Q&A with the speakers. And with that said, I think it's time to present our first speaker. Right, Cecilia?
Yes, I'm super excited to finally kick this off. So enough with the small talk. I can see that Charlie's ready too. So the first speaker that we would like to introduce today is Charlie Whyman. Charlie is the founder of Curious B2B Marketing and the creator of the Audience framework. She also hosts the Curiosity Key podcast and the Curious Marketing Club. Let's welcome Charlie to the virtual stage. Hi, Charlie.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
It's great having you. I'm so excited to your presentation. Just take it away whenever you're ready. I will be on mute and away, so.
Can you hear me okay?
I hear you great.
Fantastic. Hello, everybody. I'm absolutely delighted to be here with you all today. And I just want to kick off really with a little bit of background about me, because I hate starting a presentation where it's all about me, but there is a point to this, I promise. Now, I started my career in marketing by total accident. I studied engineering. I then left and started a business that was all about food. Used to make and sell olive oil. And then I started working in public sector in grant funding and innovation management. And even though I was doing lots of marketing, I never thought of myself as doing any marketing. So when somebody offered me a marketing job, I just thought that sounded interesting. Let's see how it went. And at the time, I was rowing a lot as well. And I was just poring over all of the leadership books around sports and what made athletes perform at their best and what helped the boat move faster, to quote a really famous talk. And I was always really, really interested in the concept of incremental improvements. So I never actually did a marketing course up until about 8 or 9 years ago. And I never studied marketing properly. But over the years, I just treated marketing as a problem that I could solve. I had this engineering background, so I just thought of it as really good. And what kept me in the marketing world was the fact that I thought it was really, really unfair that there were businesses out there that were losing sales to the competition, not because the competition had the better product, the better service, but because the competition were better at sales and marketing, or the competition had a bigger sales and marketing budget. So can I get a hands up or a hell yes in the chat if you also think that that is really unfair? Because that was always what motivated me to stay in marketing and really solve that problem. So yeah, give me a thumbs up or a yes if you think that's also unfair. Hopefully we'll see. So yes, I've got a few. I think there's a little bit of a delay here, so we'll roll with that. So yeah, I just saw that as a massive problem that needed solving. So I just poured into everything. And I was doing a lot of marketing in 2008 when we had a big recession. And I was also doing a lot of marketing in very tough times in the business. So I got very, very good at being really, really resourceful and understanding what needed to be done to get really good results with not very much. And I hope to share a few of those things with you today. Now, one of the things I talk about a lot is how to avoid marketing injury, and not just how to avoid marketing injury, but also how to recover from marketing injury, because a lot of decisions that are made in slow economies come out of fear or out of bad things that have happened in the past. So marketing injury is a bit like, the pain that you experience, the losses that you experience when things don't always go so well. And this in business can be influenced by either something that you've done yourself and something has happened and it's not gone so well. And I have lots of stories of marketing injuries I've picked up over the years, but also it can be influenced by other people within the business that have experienced injury in the past, and then they're using those injuries to stop things from happening in the future, or they're making it more challenging to move forwards. So in this talk today, I want to give you a few tips around how you can better manage that, how you can work with stakeholders that might be a little bit cynical about things that you're proposing or work that you're trying to get done, but also how you can move forwards and not let those previous injuries get in your way. I also want to talk a little bit about positive thinking. I'm a huge believer that in front of every single challenge, there is an opportunity. And because of the engineering background, I also learned that mistakes, failures, is just a way that you can move forwards. So we learned very early on that fast failures mean faster progress. So if you can think of a mistake or even something that you perceive to be a failure as a positive and look for the learnings in the things that have happened in the past, you can put yourself in a much more positive frame of mind. And that means that you're going to be more productive and you're going to get more from it. And there is lots of science to back this up. Positive thinking is more productive action. So always think of things as an opportunity, and always think of any mistake or any challenge as something to look forward to. So today I'm going to give you 3 questions that I want you to explore with positivity and explore with optimism. The first question is who, then we're going to go into what, and then we're going to go into where. And when you can answer these 3 questions, you can then create a marketing plan and get the most out of that marketing plan. Now, I don't have time today to talk you through the Otter framework, which is my marketing planning tool. And if you want to find out more, I've got a resource for you at the end of this talk. But if you can answer the who, the what, and the where, you are putting yourself in the best possible position to get the most out of whatever marketing planning tool that you're using, so it can work for everything. So let's first start with the who. And we're not going to go into sort of like detailed customer profile. I'm going to give you something slightly different to think about here. And when I talk about who, is that you've got 2 different groups of people to think about. And when you're putting together a marketing plan, you are always thinking about the end customer. Who is your target audience? Who are your target customers? But you also, and especially in a tough economy, have to think about your stakeholders. Who are the people on the board? Because the way that you pitch your marketing plans and the way that you report on your marketing success and challenges as well, will also dictate how much budget and support you get in the future. So stakeholder management is a really, really key piece of your marketing when you're moving forward, because the more the board and those key stakeholders are on side, and I think somebody mentioned this in the challenges about sales and marketing alignment, the more that you can get the sales team aligned with what you're doing, and the more you can get your CEO, the CFO, and the board aligned with what it is that you're doing, the more protected your people, yourself, and your budget is going to be. And as with your target customers, you need to really dive into what are the key motivators and the key drivers of those people that you're targeting. So today, I'm not going to go too much into sort of stakeholder mapping and stakeholder engagement. I'm going to talk about looking at your target customers because, especially with the clients that I've been working with over the years, there's a few key things that are being missed, and I want to give you some tools to be successful with that. But before I just move on, I want to say this, is that make professional friendships with the people on the board, especially the CEO of the business and the CFO, because these people will influence how much money you have to play with and also what decisions that you get made. And if you want to avoid long, pointless meetings or constantly having to justify the things that you're doing, understand what motivates those people, understand what drives them, understand what they care about, and also understand what they want to know. Because what the marketing team finds exciting isn't always what those key stakeholders find exciting. And it's really important to communicate in their language, not in yours, if you want that relationship to be productive and if you want it to work in your favor. Okay, now I'm going to go into looking at your target customers. And this is really, really important. Now, how many people here, raise your hand if this is you, have really gone into the demographics of your target audience? You know, like how old are they? Where's their location? What is their salary, their job title, their industry? All of the things that you would plug into Sales Navigator, or all of the things that you would talk to the sales team about. Customer profiling is a huge topic in marketing, and it's usually the first place that everybody starts. And I don't want you to focus on that area. I want you to think of customer profiling in a slightly different way. And instead of focusing only on the demographics of your target audience, I want you to have a look at the psychographics of your audience and really start to explore their behavior. What do they read? What do they watch? What do they listen to? Who do they pay attention to? Where do they hang out? What are their values, their challenges, their desires? And when we're going into a slow economy, these psychographics can change. So it's important to always keep those conversations with the sales team ongoing so that you can keep up to date with what your customers really care about. Because marketing, the most successful marketing, is all about understanding where your customers are at and where they want to go. What's stopping them from getting from here to here, and how can you help them overcome those challenges? And when their environment changes, and the more you can keep up to date with those challenges, the easier you're going to find to market to those businesses. Now, to give you a really good example of this, I had an opportunity basically to target the police. It was a business I was the head of sales and marketing for. We had police customers, but we'd never specifically targeted that market. And the customers that we'd acquired in the past had come as a result of the marketing that we were doing to the general surveying industry. Now, we had an opportunity to pitch for a government contract that was worth £3.2 million. And we were up against really strong competition. And that competition had a marketing budget bigger than our annual turnover. So we had some tough competition. And we also knew that our previous marketing wasn't quite going to cut the mustard. It's not going to work in this instance. So we went to the events and we spoke to the audience to really understand what did they care about, what motivated them, what drove their decision making. And what we learned was that they didn't want the equipment that we were trying to sell and what the government was forcing them into buying. They didn't care about the technology, and they wanted to carry on doing it the same way that they were doing it in the first place. We also knew that they spoke a completely different language, and they didn't understand the technical terminology that the surveying industry was used to. So we switched it all around and we went and marketed in a completely different approach. We didn't spend a huge amount of money. What we actually did was we created a forum that gave the police a safe space to talk about their concerns, because they had to, no matter what happened or what technology they chose, they had to move forwards with that. So we created that community, that safe space. And this was back in the day before Facebook groups or LinkedIn groups. We created a custom forum for them and websites. But we won 93% of that contract. And we really annoyed the competition at the same time. So it is possible to beat the competition with their big marketing budgets and their big sales budgets by simply just listening to your customers and understanding what they care about. And sometimes taking that time out to get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on can really give you that extra edge so you can cut through that noise. Okay, I've only got 25 minutes, so I'm going to go through these quite quickly. Hope this is okay, because I just want to give you lots of things that you can work with. Okay, so don't forget your customers, where they're at, where they want to be. Your job as a marketer is all about helping them get there and navigate that path, that journey, and help them get there. The next question is what? Okay, what are you working towards? This is really, really important because you want to know what the objectives are. And I just had to throw in a cute little photo of an otter here. Any fellow otter fans in the crowd? Raise your hand if so. Because the otter, or certain types of otters, they have to consume 100 grams of fish every hour in order to survive. That's an insane objective. So what if, as businesses and as marketing teams, we are that focused on those objectives and we think of it as we need to achieve these objectives if we want to survive? We're so much more likely to make that happen if we have that focus. So there's a lot we can learn from the humble otter. So have a look at the objectives of the overall business and make sure that your marketing activity is aligned with those objectives and you're not accidentally straying off the path and doing things that are nice to do or nice to have, or that somebody, and sales can sometimes be really bad for this, can divert your team's attention on. A really good question that you can ask people whenever they come to you asking something of you is this going to help me achieve the objectives for the business? If not, park it and come to it later. If so, let's explore how we can achieve that and work with what we're doing at the moment. I was working with a fintech company a few months ago, and the marketing team had a £500,000 a year budget, something I've never had and I've never been able to play with. And we were working together because the marketing team were really overwhelmed. They were really frustrated because nobody in the company saw them as a leading function. Nobody in the company could understand what good work that they were doing. The sales team were getting annoyed with them because they weren't, sort of doing everything that they wanted. And the board were actually talking about cutting quite a lot of their budget. And the big challenge was that all of this great work that the marketing team were doing was not in line with the overall objectives of the company. And the company they were wanting to go and get Series B funding. They had Series A and they had to meet certain criteria in order to get Series B, but the marketing team weren't working aligned with that objective. As soon as we switched it up, they got CEO and board buy-in. The sales team were much more aligned with what the marketing team were doing because everybody was working together towards a common goal. So make sure all of your marketing activity is aligned with the objectives of the business. Then, and this is really important because you're all sitting on a mountain of value, all of you right now. More often than not, we don't need to create all of these new assets. We don't need to create more and more and more and more. And when we create more and more and more, this can come with a cost. So if you're trying to cut your budget, or if you're trying to leverage more of what you've already got, make an inventory and have a look at what is in your marketing toolkit right now. One thing I always advise my clients to do is to create a marketing toolkit database. So make a list of all of the assets, so the blog posts, the case studies, the testimonials, any white papers, any PDFs, any giveaways, anything that you're giving to clients, whether as part of the sales process, the customer service process, or the marketing process. Make a list and rank it as a mark out of 10. Because sometimes, especially in a slow economy, especially when you're trying to do more with less, you can actually just have a look at what you've done in the past and make it work better for you. Think of that mountain of value that's sitting in front of you right now. Sometimes you don't need to create more. You just need to make what you've already got work better for you. Okay, the third question. I told you we're going to get through this quite quickly. The third question is where? Okay, so this is not your typical where are you going to hang out in your marketing. This is all about where are you sending your customers next? Now, I told you before that I studied engineering, so I think of everything in terms of systems and processes. And it's a really valuable thing that you can actually do, is to put together a system or a process that you take with your marketing. So a lot of marketing processes, when you map it out, start with your marketing channels up at the top. And I've just thrown a few of these here as an example. So you've got your marketing channels at the top. What is the next step that you want your audience to take once they have interacted and they're curious about what it is that you're doing? Are you wanting them to go straight to becoming a lead and a proper inquiry? And then does that then turn into the sales process? More often than not, and a lot of marketing processes fall into this trap, is that there's no next step. So all of this curiosity that's generated as a result of the marketing, there's no clear calls to action, so there's no clear path towards making an inquiry, or the customer makes an inquiry, but if they're not sales ready, then nothing happens, or if they are sales ready, then they'll go down the sales process, and if it doesn't turn into sale, it's just like that lead or that inquiry or that person falls off the edge of a cliff. There are a lot of marketing systems and marketing processes that look like this, and you are missing huge opportunities. Because when you think of any marketing activity that you do, whether it's something as small as a single social media post or a PR article or a website landing page or a blog post or a case study, always think about your audience. Once they've consumed that piece of content, once they've been part of that marketing activity, even if it's a webinar or something like that, what is the next step that you want them to take? Are you letting them decide on that next step, or are you leading them towards that next action that you want them to take and making their life as easy as possible? And if you haven't already done this, map everything out in a system or a process and just identify the gaps, because this can really shine a light on certain opportunities for you to do things a little bit better and get more from it, but also shine a light on opportunities where you might be spending a lot of money or a lot of energy on a particular marketing channel, but it's like a leaky bucket. It's leaking everywhere else and it's not going somewhere. So create that system, have a look for the opportunities, have a look for the gaps, and more often than not, you can really find great areas of success here. Also acknowledge that your audience is kind of split into 3 different categories. You've got team DIY, so people will always want to just go and do it themselves. And this doesn't just apply to software and services. I have worked with customers that have spent years developing their own software or developing and researching their own systems, like hardware systems, to be able to do something because they didn't want to buy it from somebody else. And they actually spend a whole load more time and money in the long term doing it themselves than if they got help. But there's a certain portion of your market that will always only ever want to do it themselves. Then you've got people that they'll want to try it themselves, and then they'll buy when they realize that actually it is going to take them too much time or maybe too much money. So then they want to look for a solution provider to help them with that problem. These are your buyers of the future. And then you've got people that know they could try it themselves, but they don't want to spend that time and they just want to buy something that helps them solve that challenge or achieve that goal that they're working towards. So if you focus on team DIY, then buy, and team buy, you can start understanding how you can move them forwards, because you can help those people that want to do it themselves, help them understand what's involved, but then, give them that guidance, become that trusted advisor, but then also a target team buy in your marketing. So you kind of want to go back to your system and understand, are you targeting those 2 people or those 2 groups of customers with your marketing, and are you leading them towards that next step? Because a lot of people and a lot of companies are trying to market to that team DIY then buy, but they're not leading them through that next step. So they're not helping them understand, right, okay, so you've tried this, what next? And giving them the option to actually get help when they get stuck. There is time for questions, so we can talk about that in a moment as well. Excuse me. So my encouragement to you on the where side of things is create a marketing system. Make sure that there are no missing pieces, that everything connects together. And I believe that you can access these slides at the end as well. Make sure that you can connect all of the dots and that you are leading your customers and your audience down that path so that you can help them get the information that they're looking for, and that you can also help them inquire when they're ready, because customers buy when they're ready to buy, not when we're ready to sell. And in a slow economy, this can change and this can shift. And the more prepared you are to deal with that, the better that you're going to be at it. So my encouragement to you is to be that little bit more curious, to ask more questions, and don't just sort of like put a sticky plaster over it. Really dive into the who, get to know your customers, work with the sales team to get the feedback around what are their objections, where are they hanging out, who are they paying attention to, what are they worried about. Make sure that you're aligning all of the decisions that you're making and all of your activity with the sales team, with the objectives of the company, and also making sure that you have those next steps already planned out and that you're not leaving it to chance or hope. So focus on the who, the what, and the where, and then look at creating that marketing plan that's going to help you do it. Focus on progress, not perfection. Try not to spread yourself too thin. And if you feel like you're not making progress, it's a bit like a bow and arrow. Sometimes you have to draw back before you can then accelerate forwards. So give yourself the gift of time to really take a step back, review what it is that you're doing so that you can make a plan as to how you can move forwards. But move forwards not with assumption, but with insight based on what your audience actually cares about. Just take things one step at a time. And if you would like some information about the Otter Marketing Planning Guide, you can scan this QR code here, or you can follow the link below. And I think I've got 2 minutes for questions if anybody's got one.
Great, Charlie. Thank you so much for that presentation. Yeah, we can see it's people are engaging and asking questions, so that's great. And I think we have time for some questions, right, Emma?
Yes, definitely. We have one here from Ronja. And she writes, in your experience, what are some of the biggest mistakes that B2B marketers make when trying to achieve growth in a slow economy? So quite an open, big question there.
It's a really good question. And I always ask people to have a look at what are you, as a team, avoiding, ignoring, and responding to. So if you have a look at what you're responding to, when things start to slow down, especially stakeholder teams start to panic and a lot of assumptions are made. So one of the biggest mistakes that I see is that B2B marketing teams and marketers start responding to assumptions or responding to one company saying one thing or one person saying another thing, and not taking a step back and backing up that assumption with evidence, or finding out who else is saying this or what evidence do we have to support that. If I kind of go back onto what I was saying about the marketing injury, a lot of assumptions are made based on things that have happened in the past that people think are going to happen again. So I was saying, in order to overcome that mistake, take that step back and ask yourself, is that something you believe to be true or something that you know to be true? And what evidence do you have to support it? And if there's evidence, then make a plan on moving forward, but only if it achieves the objectives of the business.
Exactly. Great answer.
Data-driven decisions. Do we have time for one more question?
Yes, maybe we can take one final one here. It's from Sarah. How can B2B marketers use data and analytics better to inform their marketing decisions and optimize their spending? Also quite a big one. Do you want to?
It's a brilliant question. So if you go back to the marketing system that I went very quickly over that. I spent a day with clients mapping out their system. But really, if you can map out your marketing system and have a look at how much you're spending on each of those different channels and what you're getting as a result of them, you can start to really holistically look at each element of the marketing and look at how successful it is. Again, when you match it through with the objectives of the business. if you look at it as a whole, you can start to see, right, well, actually, this particular channel, we're not spending a huge amount of it, but we're getting some really good quality leads that are actually turning into sales. Whereas if we look at this area, we're spending loads of money on it, but really we're getting loads of leads, but no sales. So always track the conversion rates as people move through that system and that process, and then just sort of measure where it comes from. My recommendation is that you look at this every 12 weeks at a minimum, because then you can start to identify trends and patterns and see what's going on. Then you can make informed decisions. But just as a caveat to that as well, is that even though I'm a huge fan of data and process and system, is that you as a marketer, you've got your intuition, you've got this background. So don't be afraid to trust your intuition. Don't be afraid to trust your gut, and make sure that you're balancing decisions with the two.
That's fantastic advice. Famous last words. Thank you so much, Charlie.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great. So, Emma, should we continue with the agenda?
Yes, we should.
I'm waiting for you to get the presentation up here.
Yes.
Great. So next up on the agenda today is Maike Zimmermann, practice lead and product manager here at Brightvision. She is leading our retainer practice, focusing on ensuring efficiency and smooth workflows, and she helps our B2B tech clients grow with result-oriented marketing. Very welcome to our virtual stage, Maike. So happy to have you here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Great. Yeah, and we can see you and we can hear you great. So just take it away whenever you feel ready.
Yeah, perfect. I'll just jump right into it.
Do it.
So, perfect. Yeah, I am, as I was introduced, I'm Maike. I'm one of the Brightvision team members, and today I'll be talking about the current reality of B2B buying and marketing, and some best practices for alternatives to traditional campaigns. So before we jump into today's session, I just want to point out that what I say will be probably most relevant to those of you who have run multiple digital marketing campaigns, maybe with mixed performance, and those of you who are considering a different approach, but maybe are a bit unsure of what to change and what to do next. So as a project manager, I get quite a broad overview of where different clients are at, what they're struggling with, and also which tactical and strategical decisions we are taking in our collaborations. And my goal for today is to just share those insights and that knowledge with you. I brought with me 3 key questions that will guide this session. So first, why do we even need to move beyond traditional campaigns? Why are we having this session? Then what should we be doing instead? And lastly, how can we implement those best practices that I'm about to share with you? So before I answer the first question, I just want to quickly elaborate on what we mean by traditional campaigns. So internally, we often refer to traditional campaigns when they are not based on data and existing insights, but sometimes a bit more on what the company wants to communicate right now, or on what marketing or sales wants to communicate right now. And they might be planned or produced for months or weeks, though we've also seen the not so rare ad hoc approach of pushing a late stage message to a cold audience just before the quarter closes. And the thing with traditional campaigns is that they're also often disconnected from other activities that have been done and are planned. And those traditional campaigns tend to be a bit more focused on specific events or product launches with a very defined start and end date. So if we know that now, I just wanted to start answering the question why we should move beyond traditional campaigns. So I'm sure most of you are aware of how the typical B2B buying journey has changed over the last years. So as you might know, in the past, the typical journey was a little bit less reliant on digital channels and was more focused on traditional sales methods. So buyers would often engage with sales representatives earlier in the process, relying on their experience to sort of guide them through that decision-making process. Overall, we can say that the journey was just more linear and reliant on sales or sales involvement. So fast forward to the present, of course, this was also increased by the pandemic, but we are just seeing more reliance on digital channels, more self-service options. So many buyers now prefer to make their own research and make purchases on their own to some degree, of course, without needing to interact with a sales representative early on. We also see that there are longer and more complex buying journeys where we have more stakeholders involved. So the buying center is growing. And we also see that they're just generally the journeys are becoming longer and more complex. Of course, the economic situation does its part with that development. And then we also see that there's a greater importance placed on customer experience. So that buyers are increasingly focused on the overall experience with every touch point that they have with your company. So while I'm not here to predict the future, I'll leave that up for others, but we can assume this development to continue. We'll see a greater use of digital channels that will continue. We are expecting to see even more complex and collaborative decision making. So if we assume that there's an increasing number of stakeholders, we can then sort of rationalize that the buying journeys will just become more complex and collaborative. So the challenge here is, of course, to provide the right information and support multiple decision makers at each stage of the journey. So what should we do then if we see that this is true? So our first best practice is begin building a holistic marketing strategy. So holistic marketing, or the concept of it, considers all the parts of a business as one single entity. And there are three main features that constitute follow the philosophy. So it's a common goal, aligned activities, and integrated activities. So in B2B tech companies' case, that means that a common goal that includes aligning with sales and maybe also the customer success team, but also the management level on what success looks like. Make sure that you're all working really towards the same thing. We then have aligned activities. So all activities, processes, and communication that sort of occur within your company and your business should be aligned towards the achievement of that common goal. And then we have integrated activities. So all activities should be designed and integrated in a way that they provide that seamless, consistent customer experience that we see buyers want nowadays. And that also requires to put the customer at the center. So when you're looking at holistic, yes, within your own company, but customers should be part of your holistic view. So in summary, the advice here, or the best practice, is to get out of your marketing bubble and align and integrate the work that we're doing as marketeers with the work of the rest of the company, and even beyond, with your customers and those that we want to be customers in the future. So now that we've heard what the best practice is, how would we do that? I want to point out that the slide that you're seeing here, it's not a specific framework or a specific roadmap, but rather a summary of how we at Brightvision would sort of approach this question if a client brought it up in a conversation. So first and foremost, to achieve alignment with your team, across your team, and also with management, you need to start with collaborative communication. And I'm well aware it sounds a bit more like a change management recommendation than a marketing one, and it might be. But either way, open communication between the teams is essential to achieving alignment. So that, as mentioned, applies to marketing and sales, but also marketing and, for example, customer success and marketing and product teams. So it depends a bit on your company. But generally, the recommendation is that the teams should have an opportunity to share information, provide the feedback, collaborate on strategies. And mind you, that doesn't necessarily mean that everyone needs to have input on everything all the time. But for example, we sometimes are faced with a situation where marketing is working with a buyer persona and sales has never seen this persona. They're not using it. They disagree with some parts of it. So we really want to avoid that misalignment. Or say some of you might have been in the situation where sales completely disregards any request from marketing. Sometimes that's simply because they don't understand some of the jargon or even the purpose and the value of their work. So if we start there and we begin to assess what is working, what isn't working for you, look at your current relationship with sales, with other teams, also with management, and also look at your understanding and usage of the customer insights, which also refers to the data of how they behave with your content and your marketing, and then also your understanding of the buying journey. So, and notice that once you start digging deep, you might notice that you actually don't know and maybe can't track some of these things. And we think that already gives you a really good starting point in sort of assessing your own maturity and seeing where you're at. But let's assume you've done that foundational research, you have a good understanding of where you're at. Next, we would start looking at your target audience. And here, be very critical and very realistic. You will likely need more than buyer persona. As I just mentioned, the buying centers are growing, they're getting more complex. So you need to look at more than one buyer persona and more than just their demographics. And ideally, you would know how each of them moves through their journey, because they might be different. So together with your teams, you can start mapping out the stages that potential buyers go through and really start to understand their behavior, their values, their needs at each of these stages. So the mapping, when you think about it, should include touch points where buyers interact with the brand, your content, your messaging at each of the stage. And it also helps you to assess where maybe you have already quite seamless customer experience and where you could be stronger. I read the other day somewhere that, we should see ourselves as the guides, not the heroes. And I think that was, it was a nice summary of what a customer-centric approach looks like. And then as a last point, we would work towards aligning your team or with your team on what success looks like. So as I mentioned, we need to have a shared goal and a shared understanding of what success looks like to make sure that all teams are working towards the same outcomes. Because we've seen multiple times that the two teams might actually work on different objectives and therefore sometimes work against each other. So really make sure that you decide on quantitative and qualitative metrics that can help you understand not just the form fills, but just more broadly how buyers move through their journey. So I'm aware that this is a lot easier said than done, but some of this, can be a bit more of sometimes a bit painful change management challenge. And there are, of course, multiple ways to do this, but this should give you a first hint into how we at Brightvision would approach it. So looking at the time, I will move on. We have our second best practice, and I know best practice 1 already highlighted this point, but I added it again, the understand your buying journey, because it's really at the core of everything. So in this best practice, if we want to rethink B2B marketing and look beyond lead generation, what does that mean? So as I said, many traditional campaigns focus on maybe only awareness or only lead generation. And if they focus on on lead gen, we often are faced as an agency that we see that they're essentially short-term sales-focused tactics that are supposed to generate sales opportunities fast, even from companies that are not actively buying, which, as many of you might know, is very difficult, if not impossible to do. The other thing is that most of these tactics heavily rely on volume, which sometimes you just don't have, especially if you don't have the budget. And some of them, for example, the tactics that we see the most are direct ads, gated PDFs with a follow-up with sales, or webinar where the company wants to, pitch their product. And as a marketer, we need to look beyond lead generation, because buyers become interested in your product, not because they saw an ad telling them how great your product is, or because they received a cold email from an SDR. We really need to start talking to potential customers rather than at them. So customers generally become interested when they believe that your product is one of the best solutions to their challenges. So let me give you an example modeled on the bow tie. So for those of you who are not familiar, it's a model that's a bit similar to the funnel, but is a slightly more flexible and adaptable way to just map the B2B buying journey. It emphasizes here the importance of the post-purchase engagement, which you can see on the right-hand side of the slide, my right-hand side. And as with the funnel, the user goes through different stages. In this case here, there are 3 loops. So there's the awareness loop, there's a sales loop, and there's a growth loop, starting from left to right. And I don't go into these now too much in depth, but they're supposed to indicate that the journey isn't quite as linear as the funnel model likes to make us think. People can get stuck in that loop. They can fall out of the loop. They can stay forever in that loop. But in the end, it doesn't matter what you call it, funnel, bow tie, user journey. You have to nail the foundations that we're talking about now first. So let me give you an example of how we can look beyond lead gen in practice. As you can see here, the red block indicates a typical lead capture, lead gen campaign that we're often asked to run for a new client. Let's assume it's a demo or trial message to an audience that likely hasn't received any advertising or any marketing focus before. So when we get a request like that, my recommendation would be to look at the green block. So the green block here shows you where we recommend setting your various initiatives. So my point here is that make sure that with all the lead capturing you're doing, you're not forgetting to generating demand. So as you might know, demand generating campaigns are designed to educate potential buyers about the value and benefits of your product or service, making it easier to generate leads in the long run. And as I mentioned before, by providing that valuable information to potential customers, you can then establish yourself, and I know this is a word that has been overused so much, as a thought leader, and you can build a trust and credibility. And mind you, what is sometimes regarded as valuable information internally within your marketing or your company bubble isn't always what the potential customers would think is useful information. So I'll bring up the point that I made earlier again. You're not the hero, you're the guide. So sometimes it's also good to remember that the lowest hanging fruits are closest to home, meaning don't forget to, thoughtfully nurture contacts that have converted through some form at some time. We often see that cold lead acquisition is prioritized over getting, for example, your MQLs to an SQL status. And I mean, there might be that occasional email campaign, but I'm saying thoughtful because that's often what's missing. If you think about it, it's often not as personalized. And as we just heard, the best content often has very little to do with your company or your product directly. You're solving issues for the people that you're speaking to. So generally, we feel that by investing in various types of demand generation activities, you can then create a more sustainable pipeline of potential customers and reduce that reliance on short-term lead gen campaigns that only target this red area here. But in the end, you should market the way that users want to buy. So don't reduce your marketing function to form fills. I know it's tempting. It's sometimes the easiest thing to measure, but we have to look beyond that. And I know that some of our clients, when we talk about exactly this, they mention that they're struggling to implement new marketing strategies or campaigns that focus on demand gen because, for example, the ROI is questioned or there's no patience within the company to wait until ROI is proven. And, ironically, that's, of course, the same struggle we face as an agency. So what we like to bring up and what we like to say to our clients to help them, start initiatives like that, we recommend thinking about the long-term business value. So understand that lead gen scales faster, but in the long run, the lead gen performance significantly decreases and will be more expensive. I'm not saying don't do lead gen, but don't only do lead gen. So if you're struggling to implement this type or anything similar, we would usually recommend to start with a pilot so that you can start building that case internally, prove some first results, and then hopefully grow from there. So as a last point for best practice 3, we recommend to have an agile, always-on approach to marketing, which then involves running marketing activities and campaigns throughout the year rather than relying on that periodic event-driven marketing. And again, this doesn't apply to only paid media. This also applies to your general communication. So the best practice here is to move on from these more traditional big bet campaigns that tend to be more focused on maybe getting a fixed number of MQLs or raising awareness for a specific time period. So for us, always on marketing is built on that long-term strategy that actually aims to maintain this consistent presence in the market that we just heard that buyers want. But again, keep in mind that what you're communicating to the audience is just as important as communicating at all. And another good reason, or another 2 good reasons to develop such an approach is that, as I mentioned earlier, buyer behaviors and landscapes are changing. So you need to be more agile. You need to be more flexible. Some of you might have companies where they're already doing more agile product development. Some of that methodology can be applied to marketing. So we actually can adjust a bit quicker to those changing market conditions. And the other point is cost effectiveness. I know always on sounds expensive, but think about it, traditional marketing campaigns are often expensive with a very high upfront cost, a limited time span, and very unclear outcome. And so therefore we see that, if we look at also with our clients, the ones that we work with for longer, that the always on marketing is typically more cost effective as you can spread the marketing spend over time and optimize your campaigns or assets for better ROI as you go. So if we say, okay, that's true, great, how do we even implement that? So first, we recommend to start with a clear strategy. And I know it might be redundant to say, but I bring it up again as we often hear that the strategy is get leads. So here's where we reply that we need to remind ourselves that that's a tactic within a marketing strategy, but it's not a strategy. So, if you have worked on best practices 1 and best practice 2, you should have a plan now of how your marketing aligns with business goals, with the work of the other teams, and also your potential buyers. So, you will never see results from content in this always-on approach without a clear understanding of your audience, no matter how big your budget might be. So the slide that I'm showing you here, it's a visualization that we sometimes use in client conversations of what such an approach can look like. And naturally, it's very simplified, but the general idea is that you can build a foundation with always-on marketing. And then from there, you can add campaigns that communicate your latest maybe content piece, event, product feature, whatever you might want to communicate. And depending on what your audience interacts with in that always on stage, you can then continue to create assets that guide them further down their journey or along their journey. And please note that I'll say it again, you have to have something to say at each stage in order for this to be working. So you need to work on the previous best practices to implement or work on this one. And if we look at the bottom layer, sort of this layer should really focus on providing clear answers to your buyers' challenges. And if it does that, it will generate more opportunities than a generic top of the funnel article for some awareness that's also difficult to measure. So, but in any case, the quality of the content outweighs the quantity. So there's another point that in contrast to digital campaigns, you shouldn't spend weeks or months producing a campaign or an asset without having any indication of how it'll perform. And with a setup like this, you can actually you can still launch big targeted campaigns, but they will be fueled by the data and the insights that you've gathered from the previous testing and the always-on communication. So maybe you only show those big bets campaigns to those people that have already reached a certain engagement threshold that you've identified. So they're interested in this topic. So I know if you think now, we're such a small marketing team, how are we supposed to do this? I'd like to point out, or actually get back to Charlie's point about, marketing requires you to be resourceful, and that applies here too. So don't forget to repurpose and reuse. And, sometimes it's not just about the resources, but also where we just place our priorities internally. So as with the previous best practices, if you hear this and agree, but you feel like you might struggle to get buy-in from other teams or upper level management, you can consider starting a smaller pilot. That's in fact often what we do with new clients, because we also have to earn the trust first. And while that, of course, will always only mimic the impact of a fully dedicated approach, it can help you to show the benefits of working in a more agile, always-on way and build a case. So in summary, don't make your plans too specific and plan out the next weeks, plan out the next weeks, please, but don't plan out the next 12 months. And instead, make sure that you develop a test and learn approach. So if you launch a new campaign, avoid massive launches that aren't founded in data. And keep in mind that what I'm proposing here, it's a long-term strategy. It's not a one-time activity to generate revenue fast. So yeah, this was it for me. Here are 3 best practices. Again, I could talk about them for another hour, but also looking at the time, I think we can maybe move on to the Q&A. I also want to just quickly raise attention again to our event offer. It's a free content audit, as we have earlier heard. So you can again take the time now to scan the QR code, or if what I said was really interesting to you, feel free to just reach out to me directly.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Maike. It was very, very interesting. And I actually have many follow-up questions myself, but I can see that we have a lot of questions in the chat here. So I think we will skip my question and get straight to the chat. Will you take them?
Absolutely. So we have one question here from Audrey to you, Maike.
Yeah.
And the question is, do you have some examples of effective, thoughtful, in quotation mark, nurturing beyond typical email nurturing from getting MQLs to SQLs?
Yes. So I think there are different ways of looking at it. So of course, generally using email marketing to get your MQLs to SQLs is, you should be doing it. It's just like, you have their contact detail, they've already opted in to receive communication from that. But we can even go beyond that. We can, for example, include them in our retargeting that we might have as advertising on other platforms. And also, if you're, depending on how you set up your CRM and your tracking is set up, you should be able to identify what have these people engaged with before. So of course, somebody that might have come through an event for one of your products might not be so interested in receiving communication about another product. Or maybe you have products of different price segments. So promoting all of these to all of your audience doesn't make sense. So we should always look at, what do I know about these people? And then how can I make sure that what I show them next is also in line with that? So that, of course, depends again on your bit of your data setup, but generally it comes back to this customization, personalization, that especially, once they're in our system, we should continue to build that trust. And we don't do that by sending a weekly newsletter about something else that they might not be interested in.
No,
Exactly.
It's usually taking the easy way out, doing that. Great.
Right.
Thank you so much, Emma. I don't think we have time for another question, do we?
I think we have to move on in the agenda, but
I can write to them in the chat. I'll just answer them in the chat.
it would be excellent. It would be perfect.
Perfect. And don't hesitate to reach out to Maike if you want to discuss this further. Thank you again, Maike, and have a wonderful day. I see you in the office soon.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Great. Yeah, we're just 5 minutes behind here, but so we will get straight into the agenda here again. And we will keep going with our speaker presentation. And the next speaker is the co-founder and CMO of Orbit Media, Andy Crestodina. Over the past 20 years, Andy has provided digital marketing advice to over 1,000 businesses and written over 500 articles on content strategy, SEO, influencer marketing, and much more. Hello, Andy. Are you ready to take it away?
I'm ready. Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Great. We're excited to have you. So whenever you feel ready, you can just start your presentation.
Thank you. I love teaching. I love marketing. It's been a passion of mine for 23 years. So in that time, I've done literally decades of work in search engine optimization and in analytics. And as we just heard, I've been part of the planning process for many hundreds of websites, more than 1,000 websites overall. We're focused on the platform itself here. So we do search engine optimization and conversion optimization. This is a team of 50 people. I'm one of the co-founders. And this is one of those companies that was built with no advertising whatsoever. We have a 100% organic content marketing approach to new business. So I'm one of those businesses that kind of proves the point that you can do it all without paying for digital ads. It's totally possible. So I'm going to walk through just some of the more practical things and give you a little framework to try to strengthen lead generation through some really tactical, specific things that maybe any of us could do right away. The goal, of course, as always, being to take the visitor from a traffic source all the way through to the thank you page. There's a lot of things on this arrow, but that's a simple way to summarize all of digital in a lot of ways. And there's lots of experiences that visitors have where they, in a single visit, may convert. It's not uncommon. The buyer journey is more likely what Maike was explaining, but in its simplest terms, we could say that what we do in digital is try to attract more qualified visitors and convert a greater percentage of visitors into leads. That's the cheese and the mousetrap. That's search engine optimization and conversion optimization. And there's often big opportunities that we all have that we could take care of right away. My thesis here is going to be that we should begin from the end of their experience and strengthen the links at the end of the chain. If you think of conversion as a chain, there's actually data to show the strength of each link in this chain. And if there's a weakness, and if there's a problem at the end of the chain, really nothing else we do matters. We can do a lot of great work, strategic work. We could have amazing campaigns. We could have, nurturing and retargeting and be great at influencers and search and media partnerships. But if when the visitor gets to the thank you page or the contact page, if it's confusing, nothing else will work. So I think we should start from the end of the process because the opportunities sometimes at the end are, I've seen lots of examples where simple improvements to the end-to-end experience can make a big difference. So this is like a mini framework. I'm actually going to go just through the first few things here. But I'm going to cover both search and conversion optimization. And by the way, of course, and obviously, every best practice, which is what I'm discussing today, is just a hypothesis. They should be tested. And I'm adding slides for you to check to see if any change that I recommend will work for you in analytics. In both Universal Analytics and GA4, I've included those slides as well. Okay, so the money page, the page at which they take action is the contact page. And there's often opportunities to add evidence and to reduce friction on this page. Here's an example of a perfectly fine contact page with a lovely bit of writing. It makes a strong point, right? Other people use them. Tens of thousands of people use their products every day. They can help. Let's try that again. When we recreate this page to say something like get a quick demo, you're about to learn how, not tens of thousands, specifically 20,000, who, not just anyone, consumer packaged goods professionals do what? Manage 10 billion in trade spend. And when will we get in touch if you fill this out? Within 24 hours. And does anyone else use this? Yes, they're the logos. And who might I talk to? Shelly, she's right there. You can imagine how this is actually a higher converting contact page. Imagine if you improve the conversion rate of your contact page from 1% to 1.2%, that's a 20% increase in leads. That's actually, you will feel that difference in your business if something like this works. So really what I was doing there was adding specificity. Specificity correlates with conversion. It's a very useful perspective just to go look at any of your pages and ask, could I have been more specific there? Are my subheads vague and generic, like our solutions? Is my navigation labels really, are they lacking any descriptive meaning? Do they just say like products and services? Well, people do this all the time. It's crazy to me. People say, oh yeah, marketing's about differentiation. And they write super vague copy. Ask yourself, look at any page and ask yourself, is a startup that was just born yesterday, could they have written this same page? Okay, if that worked on your contact page, you will see it here in your funnel visualization report in Universal Analytics. You've got about 90 days left to switch to GA4. And if you'd like to do it in GA4, you can do it with a path exploration. That's called that's one of the explorations in there. Just change the starting point to be the contact. You can also do this backwards, creating an ending point from the contact page or the thank you page. Just use this slide. You can see exactly how to set up the exploration. Next, the call to action that brings the person to the contact page. This is the next link in the chain. See, if the calls to action have low click-through rates, nothing else in the previous links matter at all, right? If your click-through rates from your CTAs are 0, then everything else is 0. Anything times 0 is 0. So why do people click? This is a really important question. It's valuable to answer it. It's a giant test of empathy. We have to know that audience and like why they would take action. Fundamentally, and big picture, nobody clicks or taps on anything until they have done a split-second cost-benefit calculation in their brain. If the benefit exceeds the cost, we click or tap. If the cost exceeds the benefits, we don't. So our job is to make that first arrow bigger and stronger and make the second arrow smaller and weaker. When the benefits exceed cost, your visitor makes it to the goal, right? So that's why people click. It's about changing the calculation in their mind for the ROI calculation, the return on the investment. In practice, that looks like this. Do this thing, okay. Do this valuable thing, aha, greater benefit than cost. Or do this easy thing, aha, lower cost than benefit. In practice, it might look like this. Contact us, not a call to action. That's not a call to action, right? That's a generic verb. Again, it lacks specificity. Anyone could use it. It has nothing to do with your business per se. Check availability and wait list. If my business has some relevance to those things, check availability. Ah, that sounds valuable. Ooh, I might lose the chance. Maybe there's not availability, right? You can see why someone would click on that, why it would have a higher click-through rate than contact us. Schedule a time to chat with an associate. Oh, that's a low cost. It's not expensive. I'm not spending money yet. I'm just scheduling a time. Yes, these are longer. Yes, your designer might squirm when you recommend testing. Everything is a test. Remember, best practices are good hypotheses. Testing that, you might have long buttons and it might test your aesthetic sensibilities. Fine, do it. Get out of your comfort zone. Try it out. By the way, if you add a kicker, you saw me do this a second ago, how soon you'll be in touch. That reduces uncertainty and can increase click-through rates. So Another thing that I've noticed is you can increase the visual prominence of that call to action by putting a face near it. This is another thing that's specific to your business. This is another way to differentiate. As a general rule, put a face on every one of your pages and not a stock photo. Put you. You're different. You're unique to your business. Put yourself or a member from your team on every one of your pages. And if you can commit to that person being the one who will likely respond to the lead, put their face next to the CTA. Ask me anything, chat with an expert, talk to Andy, right? You can imagine how I could show you screenshots of leads where the visitor's basically already talking to that person. They feel like the dialogue has already begun in their mind. It's amazing. These little psychological elements actually can be quite effective. If that worked, how do you track the click-through rates on a call to action? In Universal Analytics, you'll find that in your navigation summary. Go to the page, click on the tab for navigation summary, and you'll see it right there. It shows you as a percentage. GA4 does not show percentages, so you're going to have to combine GA4 plus a solar power calculator equals Universal Analytics. You have to do the math. So get on your phone and calculate the number. So that's the number of people who clicked on the CTA, and then you can go find the page views on that URL to divide the clicks by the page views, and you'll have the call to action. If you Google Optimize has not yet been sunset, this is a screenshot of what Google Optimize looks like. Best way to do this, of course, is with an A/B test, which excludes seasonality and timing as a variable. And you can see that we've done lots of these. Let's Get Started actually has a very high click-through rate. That's working well for a broad set of our clients. I have access to a roughly 500 Google Analytics accounts, and I'm in 2 to 3 accounts per day. So I'm constantly measuring these things. Next, I told you I'm an SEO. I'm going to pan out and think about the source of this traffic. So the visitor who's on this page, whether they decide to click on the CTA or not, this is going to affect the cheese half, right? How many qualified visitors we have to this page. At the highest level, and with the just a brief description, what I'm going to recommend is that we have a search optimized sitemap. The structure of the overall website is aligned with key phrases. Not every page is an opportunity to rank, but many of them may be. So a well-planned website has many pages optimized for many phrases. So if you're wondering why you don't rank for something, just ask yourself, which page on your site would you even think would be relevant for that phrase? What is your best page on that topic? So in the end, good, careful planning would lead you to have a sitemap that has, for example, the homepage. It'll rank for the navigational query. That's your brand. It should always rank for that. That's really not SEO. That's sort of automatic. But the homepage is also the page that can target the most competitive commercial intent phrase. Every key phrase has intent. Articles and, some key phrases have informational intent. Person wants an answer. Some key phrases have commercial intent. They're looking for a service, right? So navigational tools for seafarers in this example, that's a commercial intent query. Then all of those product pages or all of those service pages all can target different commercial intent phrases, right? You have many pages targeting many phrases. That's why it's a bad idea to have one page called services. Terrible idea. That page is about nothing in particular. You should have a page per service. Also, this explains why the home page should never have a title tag of home. That is an embarrassing mistake. The home page is the page for which you have the most authority. It's the page that can target the most competitive commercial intent phrase. It's the page that can rank for the business category. And the homepage title tag is therefore one of the most valuable pieces of SEO real estate on a website. There's still companies that leave it vague. They just put the brand name there. They have pages that aren't optimized. Okay, the blog posts are what ranks for all of the information intent things. You can also have lots of off-nav pages that rank for other phrases that don't have to clutter your main navigation. The SEO considerations are separate, very separate from the UX considerations. Just because you made a page does not mean it has to appear in your main navigation. Moving on. So those are the types of intent: go, do, know. Navigation, commercial intent, and information intent. Go, do, know. Okay, so then you got to make a great page on the topic, which means, of course, indicating relevance. That means using the primary key phrase in the normal way. Everyone knows that. But also it means incorporating the semantically related phrases. What are the adjacent phrases for this topic? Those are actually very easy to find. If I was making a page optimized for microscope repair, I would also incorporate the semantically related phrases. SEO isn't about using this target key phrase 4 times. It's about spreading out your meaning across the broader topic, indicating relevance by using those semantically linked query keywords. And you can see just by doing a simple search, I can see piles of them, and I could easily make this a better page. You can also figure out in seconds what it's never been an easier time to be an SEO. what questions people ask related to that topic. Some of those could be answered on that page. And there are also tools that will help you do this. This is a screenshot of Market Muse. Market Muse will help you, will show you what all the other websites that rank, or web pages that rank for the phrase, what words they use. And you can simply confirm that you have incorporated those phrases and topics and questions yourself. Very useful. It also gives you a little content score. Okay, so that's the idea. Target the topic, not just the key phrase. It will matter. It will be different. Your business will change if you switch from having just a simple, flat, shallow sitemap to a sitemap that has many pages optimized for many different services. And each of those pages makes a sincere attempt to be the best page on the internet for the service by targeting not just the key phrase, but incorporating those semantically related phrases as well. You're going to see that difference. I don't need to explain. You can tell where to find organic traffic, both in Universal Analytics and GA4. If this is new to you, just take these slides and it'll show you exactly how to change, just build the reports that will show you those things. Also, when you check Google Search Console for a page that's well optimized, no page ranks for a single phrase. Any page that ranks for a single phrase also ranks for dozens, sometimes hundreds of other closely related phrases. This slide just proves the point of semantic SEO. Spread out your meaning across the broader topic. You'll rank for dozens of, or sometimes hundreds or thousands of closely related phrases. That's how it works. My last point is about the maybe the most important, and I think the most valuable. It's about, because you don't have to rank to generate demand. You can actually, but you do have to address the visitor's objections once they land from whichever traffic source. People come from other traffic sources. There's more to life than search. And when they land, they have to see themselves in the page. They have to have their questions answered. They have information needs, and it is our job as marketers and as writers of web content to satisfy people's information needs. On a sales page, that means satisfying those needs related to the service or the product. So, it's answering questions and addressing objections. So Jacob Nielsen is one of the great researchers on the topic of conversion and usability. And he did a study years ago to determine that the reason why people don't take action on web pages is because there's a key piece of information missing. Go look at your browsing history. You could confirm this, at least anecdotally, for yourself by asking, why didn't I take action on those websites? Frequently, it's because there's just something you weren't sure about. So here again, we need to add clarity and reduce confusion. Suppose we have a business that's targeting no longer maps. Now I'm going to do technology. This works for any category. I'm selling a marketing technology. My buyer cares about, they're at a financial company. The IT manager is going to make a decision about some technology here. My first job, this is data-driven empathy. My first job is to go interview people who are in that, my current clients or the end users, and find out what's important to them. By the way, ChatGPT is useful for this too. You can find out what the top considerations are for all kinds of things. What are the top questions? What do people need to know before they'll become a lead? That goes on a mini persona. And during the interviews, these are the questions that we ask, and we build 60 websites a year. We do this qualitative research, stakeholder interviews, where we ask the ultimate users, take me back to that moment when you first realized you needed help. What else did you try? What didn't you love about it? Starting out, what was the biggest problem you were trying to solve? When evaluating options, what was the most important thing to you? You can see, before I ask these questions, I have no idea how to make a page. I would only be saying what I want to say. My job is not to say what I want to say. My job is to say what they need to hear. This is data-driven empathy based on qualitative research, and based on just these answers, right? I'm going to know the priority of the messages, which are the key messages, what are the alternatives, what's the competitive set. I'm going to gather some testimonials, probably from these interviews. What can you do now that you couldn't do before, right? What would you recommend? How would you recommend us to someone else? I have a much longer list of these questions, which I'd be happy to share. The reps are also excellent sources of key information. I'll say this even more concisely. The job of a great sales page is to emulate a sales conversation. It emulates that conversation. And what wins the sales conversation? You need to know this. This is the heart and soul of conversion optimization. I've been to dozens of conversion conferences, and it was strange to me at first. Like, they just keep talking about interviews. Yep, that's the job, is to know what the audience needs to know. Okay, so the rep is going to tell me different things. I ask the rep, right? What questions you just sick and tired of answering? Oh, people always ask me this. I'm tired of answering this. What should people ask you, but they don't? Answering the unasked question. That's often a powerful sales tactic. What's the aha moment that people have during sales calls? This is a great thing now. Post-COVID, a lot of these calls are recorded, right? The reps may have a whole library of recorded calls that they've never even watched. If you go back and watch some of those, you'll hear, right, what the prospects are asking. Do we use any analogies to help us sell? What numbers can we get up to that make us sound credible? This is a really powerful one. Fill in this blank. People can work with us even if you write a sentence in that using that grammatical form, you are addressing objections. And objection handling is one of the keys to conversion. I'm trying to help you build a better mousetrap. And most of these recommendations you can do simply through your CMS. They require no design changes or programming changes or waiting for someone or paying an invoice. These are things you can do through your CMS, right? Just building a higher converting page by simply indicating relevance. You'll rank higher, better cheese. Answering people's questions, addressing their objections, converting a higher rate, right? Better mousetrap. By the way, just very briefly, there are certain grammatical forms that will help you build pages that align with psychology. Use the word because. Every great sales page should probably have that word on it. Use the word should. Make them feel empowered. You should have access to your data, right? Already and still, this is highlighting the ineffectiveness of their alternatives. You've already upgraded your network, but you're still having performance issues. Write a sentence using already and still. The fact is, people want to feel like they're good decision makers, right? Oh, I'm rational. Not really. But when you make a sentence that includes the fact is or the truth is, the person's going to feel like they're making a rational decision. And again, even if is a grammatical form that does objection handling, very important. This is how it works. We're going to make the page. Ready? I'm a marketer. I'm going to go talk to the end users. I'm going to say, what was most important to you? They tell me security was number 1. Scalability was number 2. Now I know how to make the page. I didn't know until now. What was the big challenge you were trying to solve, client, right? There's a true story in the life of every visitor to every web page. If you don't know what that true story is, how do you ever hope to convert them? Simply improving this page is one of the fastest paths to greater demand, more leads, predictable pipeline. I wanted insights, not just dashboards. You already have insights, but you're still not getting, you already have dashboards, but you're still not getting insights. What can you do now that you couldn't do before? Don't have to run that stupid report every time. Stop running the same reports again and again. The next visitor to this web page is going to think, oh, these people are reading my mind. That's exactly my problem, right? I'm so sick of that. What analogies do we use, salesperson? Well, we recommend people install it themselves, right? It's on site. It's like owning your own home. You should own your own home. Do you see how the grammatical forms help? Hey team, what's the biggest number we can get up to? Well, let's see. We've got 22 clients, but across all the clients, there's thousands. There's like 15, maybe 14,000 end users trusted by 14,000 professionals. I'm such a marketer. You can tell, right? I'm maximizing. I'm trying to manipulate in the mind of the visitor, not unethically, the value and the trust that would come by building this page to align with their needs. What questions, salesperson, are you just sick and tired of answering? People always want to know if they can cancel their contract. Can they? Yes, you can cancel anytime. Read the contract. You're not locked in. Damn it, we didn't put that in our marketing. It's magic, right? Go steal the laptop of your top salesperson and go look at their sent mail folder. The page is already written. All the copies there, right? And so that one I would put down it's like a kicker, right? Put that by the CTA. Cancel anytime. It's handling the final objection. What questions should people ask, but they don't? No one asks about documentation. It's really important. The fact is 80% of software installations are never documented, right? This is, you can easily imagine, right? And the impact is easily measurable. I like to make a segment to exclude people who visited the content marketing stuff. Just universally just make a non-blog lander segment. Ask me later, or I'll share a video of how. It made a screenshot. There you go. That's how to make that segment. It's a conditional segment to exclude people that have, when the landing page has blog in the URL. And then GA4, it's the pages and screens report. You'll be able to see the conversions over there. There's actually several places where you can look this up. So that was it. I saved maybe a minute for questions if we can. We're a minute behind. I totally understand if we just want to make up that time and keep going. But Emma.
Yes. Thank you so much for a really insightful presentation, Andy. We have a bunch of questions in the chat, so let's see how many we can tick off here. I'll start with the first one that is from Holger, and he's wondering, how will AI and ChatGPT change SEO management? No lists anymore, ...
So ChatGPT, like it's very similar to the other tools. It doesn't dramatically change it because the things that you can do in ChatGPT were more or less possible in MarketMuse, in the SEMrush SEO writing assistant, in lots of other tools. Basically, it makes SEOs more efficient by helping to get that first draft out quickly, or to do some quick research to find out what the top considerations are. I was looking at a page. We were doing a webinar for universities, and they had a page about a degree, and the page was very thin. And I simply went to ChatGPT and said, "What jobs can you get with this degree?" It gave me a list of 8 jobs. Copy and paste that into the page. You've got a page that it's not just better for search, because those are all semantically related phrases, but also better for conversions. Why would you get the degree at all? Because you want to improve your professional situation. So it's an accelerator. But I think that it also moves us toward the center for kind of the shallow, sort of boring, undifferentiated content, which creates more opportunities for those that are willing to do true thought leadership, express strong opinions, and win links by being a legit thought leader, someone who is not using ChatGPT and instead writing sort of counter-narrative opinions and taking a stand.
Very good, thank you. I hope Holger got a good answer to that question. Let's see here. We have another one from Kirulu. What is expected conversion rate for you from those who visited Contact Us page to those who successfully submitted Contact Us book a call form?
Well,
maybe that's hard to guess. But...
No, there are. Unbounce has a series of reports that show conversion rate benchmarks across industries. Those are mostly for landing pages, as in often just PPC landing pages. So you can find benchmarks there. An overall conversion rate for a website shouldn't be less than 1%, especially if you exclude the people who started their visit on a piece of content marketing. A conversion rate of above 3% is considered very, very high. And at that point, you've got a great mousetrap focused on cheese. The percentage of people, in my experience, who visit a contact page and then fill out the contact form is sometimes as low as 10 to 15%, which might seem, which might be bad, but actually, if you think of the reasons why people visit contact pages, they might not have the intent to fill out the form. They may actually go to the contact page because they want to see where you're located. They're looking for a phone number. Maybe you had very simple navigation. It was one of only a few things up there. But if you can get 15 or 20% of people who go to the contact form to fill it out, I'd consider that good.
Very good. And then Camilla had a question here. How can I get a hold of the questions you were happy to share? Do you have any links we can direct them to that we can share in the chat possibly? Or
yes, I have a video on YouTube that goes through them in more detail, which I will share. And also, Emma, if you'd like, I can just send you a list of them that you can use in a follow-up email.
That would be helpful. Thank you so much. I think that's all the questions that we have time for covering. But thank you so much, Andy.
This was a pleasure. Thank you. Have a great day.
I think we got many tips that we can start using right away. So that's always a fantastic takeaway from our presentation like this. And I like the speed of your presentation, Andy. I think it's it was perfect.
I'm glad.
You have a great day and take care.
Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Great. So let's continue with the agenda. We still have a couple of speakers left. And next up on the stage is Ahava Leibtag. Ahava is the president and owner of Ahava Media Group, LLC, a copywriting, content strategy, and content marketing consultancy. Ahava has over 20 years of experience in content marketing. She is also the author of the book, The Digital Crown, Winning at Content on the Web. And with those words, welcome to the stage, Ahava.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's really wonderful to be here with all of you across the world. I just got to fangirl out on my favorite boy, Andy Crestodina. So hopefully I'll be dropping half as much magic as he just dropped.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will. And whenever you're ready, you can just take us away. We can see you and hear you perfectly.
Awesome. Great. Fantastic. Well, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you. I'm here to talk about something I'm incredibly passionate about, which is using clear language. I think that for a lot of us, when we think about that, particularly in the healthcare space where I spend all of my time, we think about consumers. But what we're going to learn today together is that everyone needs clear language in order to be able to do their jobs and make important decisions. So today we're just going to talk about why clarity is so important. I'm going to talk about using real words for real people and how you can sort of combat that idea in the business world that you need to sound like very professional and jargony in order to make your point. And then we're going to actually look at some real world examples of how you can be more clear to your audiences. But to set the stage for this and also to have a little bit of fun, I have 3 teenagers in my house right now. So yes, you can feel bad for me. There could be an appropriate moment for me. But when they started to pick up all of the Gen Z slang, and I know that they have this, globally, all teenagers have their own language that puts them into what we call a shared community of practice, meaning that they use this language to identify themselves to each other and to say like, oh, you're cool too, you slay, right? Or you're my bae, or, you're the goat. There's a funny story about Meryl Streep, like she didn't even know what that meant. And so we see that everywhere in our lives, there are places where we use certain shorthand with people, A, because it's easier and faster, and B, because it identifies us as part of a shared community of practice. This is where we belong. So doctors use doctor terms, and IT professionals use IT professional terms, and marketers use marketing terms. And I live in the United States. I'm sure you could tell by my accent. And so, the federal government employees use federal government terms. So everybody has a way to sort of talk within their group. But when you have to translate from one group to the other, that's where it can get tricky. And, language is a technology and a tool that we use every day to do that. So there's an example here from healthcare of when you were talking to somebody about having a cough over a period of time, we might use language like persistent cough, but this translator shows us that it might be more clear to say something like a cough that won't go away, or unintentional weight loss. Easier to say unplanned weight loss of more than 10 pounds. So I want to show you an example here, and I just want you to ask yourself what's easier for you to understand. The EHR platform designed to support value-based care, or below the text, the Elation EHR is designed to support organizations participating in value-based care payment structures. By leveraging population health management tools and workflows, quality reporting, and patient engagement features, clinicians can deliver high-quality, cost-effective care that improves patient outcomes while lowering the total cost of care. Or population health designed by clinicians. So there's this, which is clearly communicating an important message, but there's a lot going on. Or this, which is like, yeah, we know population health, it's a word it's a phrase because you're part of this. Clinicians, you know what those are because you're a clinician. So it screams right away to the visitor, we know who you are, we know you know our terms, but it's easy to understand. You can get it right away. So let's look at why it's so important. And then hopefully after today, after you do everything Andy told you to do, you can go and look at some of your content and ask yourself, are there ways for me to apply plain language to my content as well? So I looked at a couple of different B2B examples from different industries, and this was cloud computing was obviously one that I went to because I think, that's a big thing. And so this is Oracle's landing page. And I think we can all agree that I have no idea what to do here. Like, do I look at the man that looks like The Rock? Do I look at the call to action? Which one is it? Do I read about OCI? I'm very overwhelmed by this. And what a UX researcher named Sarah Vollmer-Mose tells us is that if it's hard to read, we assume it's hard to do. And actually, excuse me, neuroscientists have a term for this. They call it processing ease or cognitive load. So when we're asking somebody to do something, if they can't process what they're reading, then it starts to lower their ability to manage their cognition, which is their executive functioning, their ability to read and understand what's going on. So that's why when I looked at that landing page for Oracle, I was like, whoa, like there's way too much going on here for me. You need to direct me towards what the most important information on the page is. And so this is a really important point from a neuroscience perspective about how we read and understand content or copy, because it will help you when you're having conversations in your own organizations about what's really important for us to get across to people. And here's why it's so important for us to be as clear as possible. So reading actually happens, and this is every language in the world. When you look at the written characters on the page, your brain is decoding the letters. It's actually making sounds from the shapes that the letters make. So something we all learn to do, you know, hopefully by the time we're 7 or 8 years old. But then there's also prosody. And prosody is the way that your voice rises and falls with language. So for example, one of the reasons that we have punctuation is to give our written language prosody. Otherwise, it would feel very flat and we wouldn't always know what it was saying. That's why when I work with my kids, when they're writing their essays, I always say to them, the best way to know if your copy sounds good is to read it out loud, because the prosody of what you're reading comes through. And that's also what's happening in your brain at the same time. So your eyes and your brain are working to decode the symbols of the letters, and your auditory part, the listening part of your mind, is listening to how the language sounds. And that then equals processing ease. Now, I'm sure you were like, I don't need to go back to my 101 university neuroscience class, but it's actually really important to understand this, because that will help you become a better writer and a better creator of content. Here's an example. We have experienced, dedicated developers who can engineer, modify, customize, integrate, and redesign a website or application, building mobile app features that match your industry requirements. We've built over 16,000 applications over the, I don't care anymore. You know, like I'm gone. There's way too many things going on there. And so even though it says hire an app developer suited to your needs, which is pretty clear, I'm like, okay, I get that. The rest of it is just, there's just too many things coming at me at once. And that's how people decide to read. They decide to read expectation divided by reward. So when I look at this page and I see this, I'm like, oh my God, there's a big block of text coming at me right now. The reward for my plowing through this with my eyes and trying to understand this is not going to equal the reward of understanding what they're talking about. Very often in business, when people find that they had a mistake, it's often because there was either a lack of communication or a perceived lack of miscommunication, meaning we thought we were clear, but we weren't. And a lot of time that happens because it's hard to read or understand the content, and it wasn't clear to people what to do. Here's an example of somebody who's doing it right. Success starts with the right app development company. Easy to read. I get the message. Very clear processing. Personally, I wouldn't put all the letters in caps. I think that that's a bad move. You should always just start a sentence with a capital letter. The reason for this is that every time your eye and your brain see a capital letter, it signals to you that there's a start of something. We did this in language in order to create different typography, to create design across a page that's different. But when you're writing something that you want people to understand and not to differentiate, just keep everything sentence cased, which would be the first capital letter. So here's some data that shows that people could complete tasks. So if you look at low literacy web users, which is people who have trouble with language, before it was 46%, and after the language was changed, it was 82%. But you see the exact same difference happen with high literacy users, which means that everyone will do better in their task completion, which is what you want them to do. You want them to consume your content, do the call to action, buy whatever it is, reach out to a salesperson. High literacy users and low literacy users have the same jump in task completion when language is plain. So it just shows to all of us that we need to do it for everyone. So let's talk about what exactly customer-centered or plain language is. And it fits in beautifully with our digital model. Can people find what they need, which is search, right? Let's find the words that they use to describe their problems, like Andy was talking about. What are the questions you get asked over and over again? And are there certain words that hook on to those questions? B, can they actually understand what they find? So can they actually read it? Is the processing ease clear? Are you asking for too much cognitive load? And then last, can they use what they find to make a decision? So it doesn't just have to be clear. On some level, it also has to be persuasive to lead them down a certain path. This is Wells Fargo institutional investing page. I don't know what's going on here. I mean, it looks like 1998. And this is from Deloitte. So let's look at this. Institutional investors. Deloitte Risk and Financial Advisory offers a range of financial technology, fintech. Okay, that's nice. They're putting in ICU, right? Because that's what you call it. Software and services for institutional investors to address the administration, accounting, compliance, and service. Okay, yeah, what else? Institutional investment management. We offer expert guidance and sophisticated investment solutions across the evolving global capital markets. Boom. I'm in the right place. I know what these people do. I understand it. Now, the one thing I don't like about this as a marketer is that it makes it about them and not about the customer. But in terms of being clear, it's a very clear example of content. So when you're thinking about looking at your content and you're like, Ahava, that was great. And I really understand what you're talking about, but like, how do I actually look at my content and evaluate it for that? I know these words. I know this jargon. I've been writing like this or creating content like this for years. Here are the things you want to ask yourself. Does your writing require anybody to slow down? Read it out loud or have the computer read it out loud to you, because you can listen to it and see like, oh, do I need to take a step back and rethink that? You don't want people to have to reread it. If somebody, have you ever gotten some directions and you like read them over and over again? And you're like, I still don't know what I'm supposed to do. And then use their limited attention span, right? None of us are ever paying attention at this point to understand the meaning of your content. So if it's not a snap of the fingers understanding, then you know that you're going wrong. Now, I want to be clear. At the beginning of a web page or the beginning of a white paper, that should be the moment where it tells you everything you need. You're going to have to get into more complex topics, but that doesn't mean that your sentence structure needs to change or that the language that you use should become complex, because what we're going to find out now is that actually people who are subject matter experts also prefer plain language. So check this out. They took a whole bunch of lawyers, everyone's favorite people, and they asked them a set of questions about what did they prefer? Did they prefer sentences that were written in plain English, or did they prefer more complex sentences? So actually it turned out that 80% of them preferred the more complex, the less complex sentences. The more educated a person is, the less likely they are to prefer complex jargony material. So the study authors didn't really know, but their hypothesis was that if you're a person who deals with words and language all day, like I know by the end of the day, please, no one ask me to make any more decisions. No one talk to me. I can't read another thing, or I want to go like read for pleasure. I can't handle language in a complex way anymore. And so the hypothesis was that people who are really educated are dealing with language constantly, and they really want it to be as simple as possible. I've given you a few slides here of examples of the sentences that people preferred. It's obvious why, if you look at it, it's active. However, it is important to note that longer doesn't necessarily mean clear. I'm sorry. People don't mind length if it's clear. So if you look at this short version here, and I'm not going to read it out loud because we don't need to go through it, but the shorter version here was not preferred. The longer version was preferred because it used clearer language and because the sentence structure was less complex. Again, like I said before, when you're with a group of people who know what fintech is, or who know what the goat is, or who know, what persistent coughs are, you can use that language, but you really have to be sure that your audience understands it. So it's not about the vocabulary choices. It's about how complex the sentence structures are and how clear you make your messaging. But plain language can also be a problem too. And I just want to show an example of this. So this is an example, transforming healthcare to make whole health possible. It's very simple, right? It's a great idea. I don't know what whole health is. Whereas here, this is a virtual care management company. And I know it's hard to see, but it says, our technology is a white label HIPAA compliant software integrated with all the features and functions needed to practice any form of physical or behavioral medicine. I know what that is. Does it take me a little while to read it? Absolutely. But if I'm a person who's looking for this kind of software, I can understand that, even though it's going to take me a little longer to read it. So what I want to point out is that don't sacrifice being clear for being, unclear, right? Like this is a perfect example. I don't really know what this is. I know what this is. So explain yourselves as clearly as you can, but don't make people wonder what whole health is. So let's talk about how to create content for your audiences. So B2B buyers want reduction of friction, they want success stories, and they want data that supports their decisions. So let's talk about how we reduce friction. This is a referral access pathway. So this is a slide for MD Anderson. It's a big cancer hospital here in the United States. This is how a physician, a doctor, would refer to another doctor. I have no idea where to go. Here, refer a patient right there. So we want to make it as easy as possible to do business with us. This is Red Hat, their cloud computing. This is their homepage. I kept going to it again and again, trying to figure out what was going on. But that's it. They just have a menu of options, which is definitely a way to go. But I don't know. It seems like a lot of friction to me because I have to try to figure out what to do. This is AWS. It's Amazon's cloud services provider. They say start building on AWS today, and the get started for free is right there as a call to action. This is IBM. So this is an example of where maybe these words mean something to the people buying this service. To me, resilient means like your boyfriend breaks up with you and you're able to get up the next day and go to work. But for IT professionals, maybe that means something completely different. So I'm not 100% sure. But here, I think they do a good job of being able to point out, where to go. And then this I loved, cloud infrastructure for your IT project. And you can't really see it here, but these, when you moused over them, these changed colors, which allowed you to pick. I'm glad you guys liked my joke because you didn't react. And I was like, oh no, did that fall flat? But then it came through. So now I feel better. But I love it where it says here, your cool digital stuff, right? Like, it's just a great voice and tone. They differentiate themselves from Amazon. It's like, come on, like, we're not your stuffy IT company. Like, we're here to do business with you and make your lives easier. So that's one way. Just try to reduce friction as much as possible. The next way is to tell great stories. So there's 3 great ways to tell stories, right? The first one is just tell them what you want them to know. This 5-person marketing team managed 12 times more work while working remotely. Fantastic. Just right away, lots of data, good proof points, very simply stated. Then there's actually the telling of stories to illustrate the idea. So Salesforce, if you want to learn how to do B2B marketing, there you could literally major in everything that they've done. Explore all the trailblazers who are succeeding with Salesforce. And they actually call people who use Salesforce trailblazers, which is brilliant in my opinion. They make you a part of a shared community of practice just by labeling people a certain way. And then you can actually just show people. So this is a case study for Happy Planet, Forge and Smith. And they literally go through how they prototyped, how they designed in the end. So those are great ways to sort of tell stories. Stories, obviously, the human brain is primed for narrative. It's one of the reasons that all of our cultures have shared stories, shared mythologies. It's a way that we teach children things. And so when you use stories, you definitely have the opportunity to make a bold impression in people's minds. And for B2B buyers, especially when some of this stuff can, quite frankly, get dry, it's a great way to try to engage your audience in the clearest way possible. Because if you write or create the story the right way, it'll be memorable to them. Let's talk about using data. So I never, ever publish a case study or a white paper or anything that doesn't have some math in it. You know, people really buy into facts, they buy into numbers. So you need to start with that data. This is a fabulous call to action. I think Andy had something similar to this also, and he was like, oh, yeah, you can tell I'm a marketer. Join 20,000 entrepreneurs who already have an edge and get free internet marketing tips. I want to be a part of 20,000 entrepreneurs that have an edge. Sign me up. And then this is a great example. Event marketing earns $3+ million in potential revenue for medical device company. Again, just great way to use data in a way that's simple and clear to understand. So this is a lot coming at you. This is a big cognitive load, but when I am able to animate, it animates. So just forgive me for, the flatness here, but here's how this works. When you're using data, use comparisons that provide context. So don't say that the moon, the diameter of the moon is, 7,530,000 and the diameter of the earth is 34 million. People can't do that. You want to create the ratios for them. So use comparisons that are understandable. Like the moon is roughly 1/4 the size of the earth, or, something about the continents and how they fit together might be a smart way to do it. Use facts that people know in order to create comparisons. Always, 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 always have a source. I was just reading an article in the New Yorker, which is a premier publication in the United States, and they were talking about a recent study. They didn't quote the journal. They didn't quote the date it was published on. I was really, really surprised. So if you're going to cite something, have the source available and make sure you understood the primary source material, because if you write about it and you're wrong, you'll lose trust and credibility with your audience. You can use data to intrigue people. So majority of engineers believe they will become millionaires. Really? The majority of engineers believe they will become millionaires? Why didn't I become an engineer? You know, so that's an interesting thing that you can sort of use data to pull people in. Always lead with the positive. You never want to say that 10% of patients will die using this. You want to say 90% of patients will live. And then you want to lead with the main takeaway. And this is the data that I use. This is an infographic from the Wall Street Journal about breastfeeding in public. I find that infographic is impossible to read. And actually my cognitive load goes, way high when I have to parse it out. But luckily they put it on Twitter and said 82% of mothers said they have breastfed in public. Well, now I know exactly what the data shows, and I don't have to go through that infographic. I would love to give all of you the opportunity to help us make inroads in this thing that we are passionate about, which is the idea that clear language is best for everyone. So if you would be interested, if you're a B2B buyer and you look for vendors and partners who can help you, and you read their content before you reach out or contact them, we would love to interview you. You can email us at info@ahamediagroup.com. It's a $200 incentive for participation. Obviously, we'll also give you a first early look at what our data shows. But what we're really trying to show is that in the B2B buying space, people really do look for plain language just as much as they do in the B2C space. And in fact, in some ways, sometimes more, because what they're buying really are very large, very extraordinary products and services that are going to change the future of a company. And, your health and your wealth are kind of where, it begins and ends. So I really hope that you'll reach out to us for that. And then if I can answer any questions, hopefully we have time to do that. I completely got lost in the moment and didn't pay attention to time. I'm sorry.
No worries, no worries. Yeah, we're a couple of minutes over, but it's fine. And we have some questions for you, so we have some time to take them. But before we dive into them, I just have one quick question. But thank you so much for your presentation. It's so nice with those clear examples, looking at previous texts and so on. But so we've been discussing AI a little bit today here during some presentations. How do you think about that in how is that something that you will use as a part of your marketing mix?
So I have used it and I find that it's good. I don't like it because I like thinking. And I think that once you give thinking over to a machine, for example, when you're researching a topic as a writer, just asking AI to give you the main points is dangerous, because you may find something in your own research that leads you in a completely different direction that AI would never take you in, because it's a language model that's trained to spit back what it's been told. So if it hasn't been told something, you can't guarantee that it knows it. Mm-hmm. I do see it I think it can be very helpful from an SEO perspective. I think it can be very helpful from a research starting perspective. And I think that it can be very helpful, like for funny ideas about things or things like that. But when I read a finished product, my husband gave me a test recently. He gave me 2 pieces of content and he were like, which one did AI write and which one did a student write? And I was like, I mean, your student's a bad writer, but I could tell it was AI because it had like 3 clauses and an Oxford comma, and so
yeah.
But again, it's first generation technology. It's unclear where it will go and what it will look like. But I'm a writer and I want people to think, and writing is thinking. Writing is your communication written down. That's all it is. Like when people say to me, I'm not a writer, I'm like, do you talk? Yes, then you're a writer. You just haven't written down what you've said.
Exactly. Yeah, and we got a follow-up comment to that. And regarding AI, do we really want all of our copy to start sounding the same if we're all using it?
Well, I think the search engines are definitely going to, I think high quality content is going to be where it's about. Like, if you ask Andy or you ask some of the other thought leaders in this space, Ann Handley, they're going to tell you, you can't you can't afford now not to infuse your copy with voice and tone. And but yeah, I think as we get more technologically savvy, and I think hopefully the lessons of the past will teach us something. When social media came out, we never would have thought that, 10, 20 years later, we'd be having young teenage girls killing themselves because of what they see on Instagram. Like, we have to be careful with technology. And I think sometimes we're so quick to embrace it and think about how cool it is and how amazing it is. And I think we need to have a little forethought into how we put guardrails around this technology. You're not allowed to drive unless you have a license. Yeah, so there are certain things that I think we need to be more careful about when we introduce this into the public sphere.
Yeah. Agree. Thank you for that. Emma, do we have time for one more question in the chat?
Yes, we can take one last question, I believe. There is one from Ashley, who states here, such an eye-opening session. Thank you. How do I convince stakeholders to move toward plain language in copy and design?
So I think hopefully some of the tips here will help you, but I think the most important thing to do, what I've always found works the best, is to ask them how they would talk to the person if they were sitting in front of them, not through the screen, not, like through a webinar, but like, what would it be like if actually you were having coffee with your customer? How would you talk to them? And I say to them, would you say something like that is in this paragraph? And they're like, no, I would make it much simpler to understand. There you go. So it's that kind of thing where it's really about, very often, the people that everybody on this webinar, this conference, and thank you for hosting it, work for are people who are technically superior in what they do. They're engineers and they're science people, and they want to sound really smart. And the response to them is, the way you sound smart is in delivering the best possible product. Let the marketers and the communicators explain what the product that you've created, because you're so smart, can do. And I think those kind of conversations, obviously held respectfully and with data, can really change the way that language is treated in an organization.
Great. Thank you so much for that
Thank
answer.
you.
I think that has to mark the end of your presentation here, but
thank you.
Great having you, and have a fantastic rest of your day. And thank you so much for participating.
Thank you so much, Ahava.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Great. So we have two fantastic speakers left of today's agenda. And next up, our next speaker is Annika Svensson, Director of Marketing AAC Nordic at Symetri. Annika has spent several years at Symetri Europe, leading teams and projects in ABM, market leadership, and new business opportunities. She has very long experience from working within the tech industry. Happy to welcome you to the stage, Annika.
And thank you for having me. I really feel like being being stuck in everything here, what everyone has been talking about. And I feel most that I would like to just go back to work and, do some changes. And you might notice some of the slides that we should probably rethink some of the things, but it has been really inspirational to listen to the first ones.
Great, thank you. We have, I don't know if it's only me, but your sound is echoing a little bit. It sounds like you're might be streaming from two different speakers, or is it just me, Emma? Do you have you issues with the sound as well?
Yes, I'm hearing the same thing. It's a bit echoing.
It's double mic. I think it's a big double mic issue. Let's see if we can. Now you're muted.
Yeah. So I only have one mic on.
That's really weird. Maybe if you try to log in and log out and log in again, or close the window and go back in, and hopefully we can get it fixed.
Yeah.
All right. Let's wait a bit then for Annika to reconnect.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get it sorted. That's an issue I haven't been experiencing Big Marker before, but you always get to learn something new hosting these events.
Exactly. All right, Annika is back on, reconnecting.
Yeah, we get help from the chat, which is great. And it might be the speaker she uses for sound output echoing her. Yeah, so I guess the setting she has to do within her computer.
Let's see now if it works better.
Yeah, let's see. I'm on the exact same as I was the last time, so when we tested.
Yeah, it's still echoing actually, but maybe we'll have to live with it if you don't know how to.
Is this better?
No, unfortunately it's not. But if you can try to. Let's see here. Tell her to lower. Yeah, that's a good. We get tips from the chat here. It's a
I lowered the speaker volume.
Tell her to lower. But if you can turn the sound down on your PC, maybe that's what's echoing.
That's what I've done.
You did that?
Yeah, I do that.
Were no different.
Now it's off. Do you hear me? Or then I don't hear you though. Is it better now?
It's still the same. It's still the same there.
But just try to lower the volume a little bit on your microphone, and then I think we'll have to live. We think we have to live with the sound. We can hear you though, so.
Right. So sorry about that. My topic for the day is that I really believe that tech really changes B2B marketing, and that's also why we as marketeers out there in the different companies sort of need to go back to basic. Very short about me. Adding to what was already said, I started in sales, which was many years ago, as you might see. And in those days when marketing was supporting, we had send-outs and things, but we had, of course, no clue about any opening rates. We had no idea whether our customers had seen us or anything. So from that background, I then went on to marketing, both within Ericsson, but also in other companies. So I've been running global campaigns, driving really big topics, and now I'm in this company called Symetri, and we are actually part of the Adnode group. We're also a platinum partner of Autodesk, and this means that we are both having our own offerings to the marketing, our own software, our own services, but also we are a big reseller. And we're quite a few today. We are based in, or we are sort of founded in Sweden, and we have now grown also over to the US. We are today more than 800 employees, and this growth journey has been quite fast. So when I started a bit more than 3 years ago, we were only around 150 employees. So as you can see, we're both growing organically and with acquisitions, which of course impacts the way we do marketing. And what we want to do, we want to challenge people to work smarter for a better future. And that's really at the core of it. So what about marketing within our organization? We have a small global team. They support and they drive, of course, the brand, and they own the brand and the design. They also have the ownership of tools. We work with Umbraco, HubSpot, and a lot of other tools, of course, as everyone is doing these days. But then we also have where I am, which is based in Nordics, which means we are reaching out to architects, building engineer, construction, and infrastructure types of engineers, which of course all of them have their different own languages in a way. And then we have MFT Nordic, which is sort of the same, but they are targeting more the production part of the world. And then we have similar organizations across the globe in UK, Ireland, and US. And in my team then, so we are, as you can see, we are 5 people plus myself. So in Sweden, I have 2 marketing managers. In Denmark, I have 1, and in Norway 1, and in Finland 1. And one of the challenges, of course, that we have is that we are all managing one website in our own local language. So when we publish something that is new to the market, we need to ensure that we have it translated both sort of, correctly, but also there are slightly different languages when it comes to architects and engineers in the different countries. So it's not just translating, but you sort of really need to adhere to what needs to be told there. And we have a couple of different target groups in the different countries. In Sweden, we have 4 distinct target groups. In Denmark, 3, Norway 4, and Finland 4. And of course, this has also put some challenges on us because an architect has a completely different type of language to compare to an engineer. I'm just going to see if the door here is the echo. Let's see if that helps. Could do. With that said, why do I really now believe that tech changes B2B marketing? I guess we have all seen these maps of different types of tools that we can use with. I remember when I first started to look at these, I mean, you could actually see what was on the slide. These days, I mean, you can't even see all the brands that have different types of offerings. And of course, that gives us some kind of a stress or a pressure to sort of how can I choose the right ones? Are there enough choices? It's like, you know, Friday evening you want to watch a video or a film on Netflix, and sometimes you can't even choose because there are so many choices. And then if you look at all other channels, sort of what are you going to do? At the same time, we can see that the customer journey, the buying journey, is becoming more and more complicated, even when it comes to sort of what used to be perhaps easier decision making. So with this, we sort of from the marketing side, we have all of these different tools that we can and should be working with. And you can also see on the customer buying side that things are complicating, of course, partly impacted by all of these different tools that we are using. And we have some facts. We know that our customers they're interacting more and more digitally with us. And then, of course, you can always argue whether 80% of the B2B interactions will occur digitally by 2025, as Gartner suggests. But most probably somewhere in that frame. And also the fact that our sales colleagues sort of have a very limited time that they can spend with their customers or our customers, actually, during a given B2B buying journey. This is just an illustration, but I had a conversation with one of the sales directors within the company just last week, and he said he finally got this, you know, face-to-face meeting with the customer. So we went there, they had the meeting. Unfortunately, 2 of the colleagues of the customer side couldn't join that meeting, so they had to be on the digital version as well. To my colleague's surprise, when they went for lunch, these guys actually joined the lunch because they were still in the office. And as you can see, this guy, he has at least 2 screens that we can see. He has a laptop, he has the big screen, he most probably has some mobile phone or 2 somewhere else. So what are they doing during this sort of the meeting that is taking place? They could be Googling us, they could be on our website, they could be checking emails, maybe doing something else, sort of all linked to ourselves if we are lucky. But we don't know exactly when we are in the same meeting. So where should we focus as marketeers together, of course, with our colleagues in sales and in our organization, also together with all the consultants that we have? One thing that made me sort of think a bit was when one of my colleagues asked me, he was a bit, as you perhaps can see from the comment, he was a bit frustrated. Is marketing here to support sales, or is it sales to support marketing? We had a really good conversation from this, because I said, I mean, we're both here to drive Symetri's targets. We're both here to drive the sales of Symetri. And then, of course, we need to understand what we are doing so that we sort of support each other, that we don't sort of interfere with each other. Sometimes I think we need to be better out there in the companies to sort of work with translation. We need to translate to our colleagues in sales what we are up to, what we are doing, using a common language. I think I'm sort of learning from the previous speaker. But I mean, sometimes we have all of these expressions. It's about SEO, it's about user experience, about different landing pages, A/B testing, conversion rates, click-through rates. What does that actually mean? So I think here we also need to, what are we targeting? Where are we coming to? So I think what we have been pretty good in doing the last years is to really try to link what we are doing to the buying process. We know that customers are most likely to sort of identify a need. They need to become aware, or they're becoming aware of our solutions. They go through a consideration phase, decision phases. Hopefully then we land the case and do the implementation, they launch things, there's ongoing business, and then of course renewal. But we also need to link that to our sales processes, the company's sales process. How does this match? So that we then can sort of agree on what are the best things to do for us. Where do we need to be visible when if a customer or a potential customer is to become aware of our products and services. And sometimes maybe we need to be even more easier, it's about attention, it's about interest, it's about desire, and it's about taking action from the customer side. This is what we want to achieve with all the different marketing activities that we are driving. And I guess some of you are old enough to sort of recognize this model as the ADA model. So what I'm saying here, I think it's really, really important that we ensure and that we can work with together that when our contacts at the customer sides are looking for new things or existing things, that they find what they're looking for and that they find it with us. And I think today also, I think we have got some really good recommendations on sort of what we should be working on and where we can improve. And one of the learnings I've had through all my years, both within marketing and sales, is really that we need to work with what we have. We don't have more resources. We don't have more budgets than we have been assigned. So what we have been doing during the last year, sort of more full-fledged, is to really work on inbound marketing and to really see what kind of content do we have, what can be positioned as consideration content, what can be positioned as more awareness content, and then sort of what can be more decision content. And then, of course, we are learning. We are absolutely not perfect yet. But we have now set up some structures in HubSpot, but also together with our sales guys, so that we can really get a link between the first moment when we see that we have new contacts coming in. What are they doing? When is it time to start contacting them, and so forth? What we have been setting up is sort of different inbound flows. We're also now learning how to sort of replicate them so that we can do them once upon, again and again and again for different types of purposes. One of the challenges that I think you might understand is that as we are a very small marketing organization for this kind of full scope is, of course, to find time and prioritize time to make sure that we have all the content that we would like to have. But we're starting from somewhere, and now we're sort of adding on. And then, of course, to get to this, we used to talk about alignment with sales. I kind of don't like the word alignment. So what we are now doing is that we're really focusing on having the same targets as we do have in sales, or that our sales colleagues have. So our result targets are new sales to new potential clients and existing clients. But we're also very much targeting renewals. And this, of course, goes both for software and services. That's the results that we are targeting. Then we have the performance targets. And of course, budget could be one of those. Leads generated can be another one, or specific targets for events, for instance. And then we have our process targets. And here we have the number of attendees, the number of clicks, click-through rates, SEO efficiency, web visits, and so forth. So this is how we are trying now to really make sure that we are doing the right things at the right time. Then we need to structure this so that we are having specific targets for different areas. I mean, we have certain targets for our different segments, of course. And then another one, I think that is so important. You need to choose partners wisely. Because looking back at that MarTech map, there are so many potential companies out there that really want to sell you services. And I can tell you, having my name on this conference has sort of made my inbox explode with possible new partnerships. So I found this quote from Oscar Wilde: never love anyone who treats you like ordinary. And I think you need to find partners that can sort of treat us as both the individuals that we are, but also the sort of give us that both the respect, but also the focus that we need. And that can be very different depending upon who from my team we're talking to, but also the challenges that we have. And I must say that with you at Brightvision, we have really received that kind of support. And I really want to reach out to Shanice and the team to thank you, because it has made a huge difference to us. So B2B, it's driven by tech marketing, or B2B marketing is driven by technology, but so is also our customers. They're also driven by the technology. So now it's sort of up to us to find how we can take sort of the next steps. And we are really trying, and we are learning every day from this. So thank you very much. And I'm sorry about the sound.
All right. Thank you so much, Annika.
Great.
Despite the sound, we could hear you, and it was a really great presentation. So thank you so much, and thank you for the nice words about our collaboration together. That was super nice to hear. All right, so I think we have time for a few questions before moving on into the agenda. We'll have one here from Sarah, and her question is, what are some of the most important skills that modern B2B marketers need to succeed in today's environment, and how can they develop these skills over time?
Oh, that's a tricky one. And I think you have, as a marketer today, it's difficult to cover all the different areas. You cannot be a specialist in all of those areas. I think one skill is actually to listen to yourself. Where do I want to expand my own knowledge field? So where do I want to be? Where do I want to have my skill sets? And expand on those, of course. But that also means you need to realize, for instance, I am not an SEO expert, so I need to rely on those, on that expertise. So I think sort of managing that, I think, is really important, because you can't know everything. Of course, there are some fantastic persons who, they tend to know a lot, but I think that's the key thing. Where do I want to be?
Definitely. Great answer. Let's do one more. And Gabriella wonders, how can I, as a marketeer, strike the right balance between using technology to automate tasks, but still maintaining a human touch in their interactions with customers and prospects? So how to strike that balance, sort of?
Yeah, I think that's something that I have been working on for many years, to sort of combine sort of the more face-to-face marketing activities with the more, where you can reach out more broader. And I think first one, again, I think you have to have the human touch. We need to sort of write our own emails. We need to know what content we need to produce, and we need to talk to our specialists who can explain that. I think that's really, really key. And to feel confident that you need to keep that human touch, because as I said, I've received a couple of emails this last 2 weeks on how we can just automate everything, and a very clever person said once, there's a difference between big data and thick data, and thick data, that's when you start to think about certain things. So the human touch is absolutely important, and I can see also with customers when you have the meetings with them to talk about stuff. Then you get really good insights that you can use for your website, your emails, for your webinars and such.
Exactly. I totally agree with you. With those words, I think we would like to thank you, Annika, for this great presentation, and have a great day, and see you later.
Thank you so much, Annika.
Thanks.
Great. And back to the presentation. And we have, let's see here. Now I think we lost the presentation. There we go. And the last speaker presentation of today. So the last speaker we would like to introduce today is Ardath Albee, B2B marketing strategist and SEO. She helps companies with complex sales, increase relevance and revenue with persona-driven content and buyer enablement strategies. Ardath is also the author of 2 books, Digital Relevance and E-Marketing Strategies for the Complex Sales. Do we have you ready to present, Ardath? We have your presentation and here. Yeah, hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Welcome to the stage.
Thank you so much.
Are you ready to take it away?
I am. So let's jump right in.
Let's do it.
All right. Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be with you today. Thanks for sticking around for the last session of the day. I want to start by dropping this right here. And this is from the Power Provocation Report. And the reason that I paid attention to it is because this report is all C-level respondents. And it kind of scares you a little bit, 1%. It's not very much. But what really struck me is that they don't believe B2B marketing shows a meaningful understanding of human experience. And it kind of really makes you stop and think, what are we doing? How did we get here? But in case you think that they're the only ones, this report from Forrester came out just this month, and it essentially is focused on the fact that B2B content marketing is broken. And you can see some stats up here. Buyers say that there's better sources than vendors for content. We're focused on style more than substance. But the third one really kind of made me think. 69% of customers say expansion is unlikely if content isn't valuable. And as Forrester analyzed the results of their research, what they discovered was, according to buyers and customers, the quality of your content reflects your product value. So it's not just an informational thing. Our content is a reflection on our company, on our brand, and on our products and how valuable they are, which means we really need to think about the role content has developed into for our buyers. So buyers are frustrated. We all hear this all the time, and we've seen it evolve from them being reliant on salespeople to them pushing them away and saying, hey, we're going to self-serve. We're going to go find out whatever we need to know. We're looking for bold ideas. Where are they? Share them with us. Give us something insightful that we don't already know. And of course, meaningful human experience, as you've seen. Context, I think, is a big one that we don't pay a lot of attention to. What is their context right now in the moment? How do we address that? And how does it shift, right, as they learn more, as they interact with us? But the other thing we spend a lot of time doing is the FOMO thing, fear of missing out. And now with Matt Dixon's new book, we find that our buyers have a fear of messing up more than they do of missing out. And so what a lot of research is showing is that really what our buyers need is positivity and confidence to move forward. We need to motivate them to take action. And so perhaps we need to get rid of the fear and start helping them be more positive, that gain that feeling of innovation and that kind of thing. So I've talked about this for years, that we need to become the guide in our hero's story, right? And our hero is our buyer, not our product, right? But the thing that I think is really key, especially with this move to self-service, is that they don't know what they don't know, right? Most of them probably haven't bought whatever this thing is that they're looking at before, or if they have, it was a few years back. And you know how fast things change. It's not the same product now it was when they bought it last time. So that impacts confidence, right? And confidence reflects against the career risk they may be taking, making this decision, or everybody isn't on board, so they start questioning themselves, what have you. New people involved. We saw this during COVID, where buying committees changed. New people came on and others moved off, or they just grew bigger altogether. But buyers also say it's really hard to find helpful information. What they're seeing a lot is high quality, but it's not relevant to their moment in time, to what they're looking at today. And the thing I think a lot of us forget is, because marketing and selling is our full-time job, buying is not theirs. So they're fitting it in where they can. And so we need to really think about all these factors and how we approach our buyers and our marketing programs. Going back to the Power of Positivity report, the good news is C-levels want us to go bold. They want us to take a clear and disruptive position on the state of our industry. They want us to show more leadership. And overwhelmingly, they want us to be provocative and provide a forward-thinking perspective. So are we up to the challenge? And the thing that, I keep thinking about is, and I've been watching buyer research since we started doing it, 10, 12, 15 years ago. And every year buyers say, we want better, want more different, and we're not doing it. Well, as you can see here, the last time they conducted the survey in 2017, 71% said we weren't being relevant. Now we're up to 82%. We're going the wrong way. So we need to really think about it. And as I sit and look at the research, I started thinking about, are we as marketers stuck in our own status quo, right? And part of this is, so the top 2 bullets on this slide are the top 2 responses from CMOs when asked, why aren't you being bolder? Why aren't you being more provocative, right? The number 1 answer was, our company is risk averse, right? So we're not allowed to do it. We can't do it. The second bullet, which was their second response, 53% of CMOs said marketers lack motivation to be different, to step out, which kind of made me scratch my head, because isn't that what we're all about, right? Going out and, putting new ideas into the world, supporting our companies and building those stories. So that one kind of scared me a little bit. And what they found in the survey, when they were talking to the different C-levels, CEO, CFO, COO, CRO, whatever the Cs are, is that they really want marketers to step up and educate the company on why brand is important, why what we do makes a difference, that they think it's our job to take the risk, to show them why they should really invest in marketing. So we have an opportunity here where our leadership is saying, come on, let's go, prove it to us, show us how it works. The one of the other reasons was that our resources are limited. And as you heard in the last session, you got to work with what you got. It's how you use it. And I would contend that we need to look at what we have and use it differently. Our process is dictating what we do. I'm working on a project with a client right now where they're trying to make a difference with their programs, their marketing programs. And as we're working on it, I'm getting directed to, this is how we do it, and this has to go here, and then this gets handed off over here, and we only use this system, and it has to be presented in this way. And I'm kind of like, do you want to get out of your own way? Do you want to try something different? Because otherwise, why are you going to get different results than what you've already got? So I think we maybe are getting a little too comfortable, and we need to start thinking a little differently. But in order to do that, I want to give you today 6 ways to consider using to unlock B2B buyer potential, right? To become too relevant to be ignored. So let's start with the first one. For any of you who know me, you'd know this is going to be the first one, because I've been building personas for a long time. And I don't care what you call them, whether you call it buyer insights, whether you call it personas, whatever you want to call it. What we need to do is really understand our buyers. As you can see from the slides in the beginning of the presentation, they don't feel understood, right? They're not getting what they need from us. But really what it is unless you talk to the people that you're trying to persuade, you don't know what they think about their problem, about their role in solving it, about their company's acceptance of change, about any of those things. How do they feel about it? Are they frustrated? Are they hopeful? Overwhelmed? What do they feel about dealing with this problem? And most importantly, what do they want? It's not your product. It's the outcomes. It's perhaps professional status, right? It's the consensus of their colleagues and peers to get this done and move forward. And then again, why don't they have it? What are the obstacles that are in the way of all of this? And let me tell you that most of the times it's not price, right? It's, will our users adopt it? Can I see a way to get the value you are promising me if I implement this tool? Can we even implement it? How's that going to go? Right? So we need to talk to them. And unless you talk to them, you don't understand the phrases they use, how they position the problem in a conversation. And if we can't match those things and get into sync with them, who are we talking to? Quite often a client will say to me, well, we're marketing to the VP of IT, just write content for them or something. And I'll say, really? What do you want me to say? What do they care about? Do you know? It's not about a title, right? It's about perspective and their role and their responsibilities and how they view the world. So we need to really think about, what do we need to do? And here's the thing I want you to remember. You can use data and see what they're doing. It's not going to tell you why they're doing it. You can talk to your salespeople and they will say, well, so-and-so said this and blah, blah, blah. And you got to remember, it's going through their filter as they're sharing it with you. Is that really what they said? Is it really what they meant? In what context? So we need to go have these conversations. The next thing I want you to think about is emotion. A lot of B2B marketing is just dry, and we think we're marketing to business and they're professional. We need to be logical and present just the facts. Well, we're people too, and they are emotional. Fear of messing up is an emotion, right? An emotional response. So, confidence. In the research report, the power of provocation, what they found was people that are inspired with that innovative feeling, thinking they're making progress and they can do something new and different that's going to have a profound impact, are motivated, right? Hope and positivity motivates people to take action, which is what our marketing programs are all about. If they don't do anything, what difference did it make? It's like if a tree falls in the forest kind of thing, right? So we've got to think about, how do we weave emotion into our content? And this can be through the word choices we use, helping them visualize, right, themselves solving the problem. How are we painting the picture? How are we sharing the story? And it is their story. It's their hero's journey, okay? And we got to look at context and the shifts in context and how we can use those to drive forward momentum. And then simplicity. Buyers say buying is hard, man. It's hard to find helpful information. It's hard to, get to the bottom of things. We got to search through these websites. And have you ever thought about how your website is organized, right? You've got resources, and then you have videos and webinars. And, oh, gee, I think today I want a webinar. No, maybe I want a blog post. Where's the topical information? Where's the hub problem to solution story that they can find? Are we making it easy enough for them? So the third thing that I want you to think about, and this really comes to the fore since we've all gotten involved in ABM programs, right? We need to own the conversations that we're not in, right? If you think about the number of buyers involved, what are the chances are that you are going to be able to engage every single one of them? Not high, right? We have limited resources. We can't create programs focused on each and every buyer, but what we can do is gain an understanding of what the different people want, and then use the engagement we have with some of the buyers, whichever ones we're engaging the most, and provide them pass along content where they can take our ideas into the room we are not in and share them with their peers and colleagues. Pass along, a PDF or whatever it is that talks about, what your HR person should care about in this thing or whatever, right? Every different role has different care abouts. Are we talking to them? And as they share our perspectives, they also start adopting them, and we become a trusted mentor. And that is really important, but we got to think about, how do we help get all of these people on the same page, right? And it's about the overall company objective. But if we are not addressing their personal objectives of their roles, what they want out of it, what are the chances are you're going to get everybody in consensus, right? And so when you look at the amount of deals that end in no decision, we're not doing really well at this. We need to think about it a little more and help our salespeople do this as well. The fourth one I want to talk to you about is helping our buyers advance, right? I've said this before. If we don't help them move, we're not getting the job done. According to Gartner, there's now a total of 27 interactions, at least in a B2B sale. That includes sales interactions, but geez, that's a lot. A lot of my clients sell really complex solutions, and it can take 2 or 3 years, right, to move somebody through the buying process. Have we figured out what the story is across 2 to 3 years? Or are we still doing 3-touch, have a salesperson call you campaigns that have no relationship at all to the buying process that your buyers are going through? So we need to connect the dots. We need to also think about if we put content out there that has them get a concept or an idea and they go, aha, that makes a lot of sense to me. Their perspective, their context just shifted. Is our next piece of content moving them forward from there? Or are we going back and telling the same old thing like you're still trying to convince them? Quite often what I hear when I talk to customers, my clients, is they've already sold me. They need to stop trying to convince me I'm interested and help me, move past that to something else. So we need to show them what's next. So by talking to your customers, going back to that first thing, right, get buyer insights, we can start mapping what are all the things they need to know, right, and help them advance. And you want to think about, I found it really helpful to think about it as a Q&A process, question and answer. It's kind of how conversations go, right? You ask a question, somebody answers, and you say, that's interesting. What about this other thing? What does that sequence look like for your buyer? And how do you put it together? So the fifth thing, and I've written about this, there's a post on my blog about, what happens when your buyers start using ChatGPT. And I've read a lot of posts from friends of mine that are looking at it from a buyer perspective. And I started going out and playing with it. And I thought, my God, this is a little frightening. So what happens when your buyers go out and use an AI tool and say, what vendor should I consider if I'm a mid-sized company in financial services looking for a CRM? Are you coming back in that list? What questions should I ask the vendor? What risks do I need to be aware of? What outcomes can I expect to gain? And if they are getting this information from ChatGPT and it's not driven by you, then what happens? How do we counter this? We need to at least be aware of what they might be learning and putting information out that either beefs that up or shares an alternative view, like be provocative. Remember how we started this session? But we can't not pay attention to this. So beyond thinking about, geez, we can streamline our content marketing process, let's think about how might our buyers be using it and how does that inform what we do with our programs, how we create content, what content we even need to create, right? What does that look like? And then this last one, nurture customer relationships, is really key. A lot of us now are responsible for the entire customer life cycle, or continuum, as I call it, right? So beyond just getting buyers through to the first purchase, but building the customer relationship, extending that cross-sell, upsell, increasing lifetime value. What we have to remember is once our buyers have bought the first thing from us, they solve that problem. So now it's a new problem. What are they solving for now? Have they realized value by solving the original problem? And how will the value compound if they buy another module from us or add more seats or whatever that is, right? And then lastly, think about how can we help them stay ahead of the curve, right? How can we share with them our perspective on what's coming? Remember, they want forward thinking from us, provocative ideas. How can we help them prepare for the future? What's our view of that? How can we get them on board and help them be more successful? So as I wrap up today's session, what I want you to really take away from this is not just these 6 things, but I want you to consider the idea of participation. We talk about engagement all the time, and somehow I think we've muted that down to mean clicks and views and things like that. But without participation, without their investing time, effort, emotion, whatever with us, they are not going to advance. So we need to think about how do we get participation levels up? And this doesn't always mean that they have to actively do something. What it does mean is, are they emotionally engaged, right? Are they moving forward? Are they sharing our ideas in other conversations? That's participation, right? Are they advancing? They're participating, they're doing something, right? So we need to think beyond just how we've muted down engagement and get some oomph back into it, and think about, how do we create participation? Because if they're participating with you, they're getting more confident, and they're getting more as they're getting more confident, you're getting some of the credit for that, and you become more trusted, right? And we do business with people we trust. So all these pieces have to come together. But I challenge you to go back and think about, are we stuck in our status quo? What can we do differently with the resources we have to engage our buyers and give them what they need? So thanks very much. I appreciate your time, and I hope I've shared something that makes a difference for you.
You definitely have. Thank you so much for your presentation. Great. Yeah. And oh, am I echoing? Let's see here. Sorry about that. Great. And I think we have some questions for you too. Emma, would you want to take them?
Absolutely. We have one from Arun. As marketing, something's missing in the, maybe, yeah. How do you start off conversations with your customers to get the buyer insights?
One of my favorite things. Okay, so when you're talking to a customer, here's the thing to understand. It's all about them. Who doesn't love talking about themselves? And so what I usually start with is, tell me about a day in your life. You know, what does it look like? How does the problem appear to you? I want to understand how they function, you know? And once you get them started, then it's a matter of letting them talk and guiding them. Oh, tell me more about that. Well, how did this impact that? Well, what got in the way? You know, but if you start by saying, tell me about a day in your life, or tell me, what did it look like when this problem first presented itself? And what made you consider solving the problem? What made you consider change? You make it all about them, and then you just kind of guide them along, and they will continue talking. The other thing that I found that's really helpful is, only ask for 30 minutes. And you got to know what you need to know from them to get it out of them in that 30 minutes, but you will not get them for longer than 30 minutes. Most of the time they're busy. So focus on 30 minutes and make it all about them. Do not ask questions about your product, you know, until you get to the very end. Ask about the process, the thinking that went on, the activities they did, where they went to get information, what kind of information did they need, what are all the questions they had that they had to answer in order to keep moving forward. Those become kind of the cornerstone things that you can then answer with content to create your programs that actually align with their thinking.
Great. Would you say that those 30 minutes is usually sufficient for getting those pain points that you need to figure out, or?
Well, I've gotten really good at it. I've done thousands of these, so I'm pretty good at it. It depends on how cooperative they are and how talkative they are, you know. But most of the time, what I find is I can get enough. And if there are areas, and I interview a lot of people, I'll interview 20 people to build one persona, because what I'm looking for is the commonalities that are across them, not the one-off things, because you want to engage the widest swath of people you can. Unless I'm working on a specific ABM account program, I want to know what are the commonalities, right, that I can reach the most people and engage the most people about. And so then I'll, you know, in another interview, maybe I'll ask a question I haven't got an answer to. But what I'm looking for is, when I get on these calls and I start hearing the same stuff, the same answers to the questions, and then I go, okay, we got it. These are the things they're all thinking, right?
Then you know that the persona is saturated, so to say. All right, great. Thank you for that answer. Did you have a question, Cecilia?
No, I was just going to thank you for the presentation, and thank you for the point specifically about AI, that we really need to be prepared to how we're going to be perceived when we're being searched for in a completely new way. So I think it's great that you brought it up, because I think it's at a lot of marketeers' agenda as of today, and it will be exciting to see where we are in a year or in a couple of months, maybe.
Yes, it will. It's always changing.
Yeah, it does, and it changes very fast. But thank you so much for your presentation. I'm glad you wanted to join this event. And yeah, you take care and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Ardath. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and we are getting closer to the end here. There's still a lot of people on, which is great. So I just wanted to take the opportunity again to share our event offer that we have today. Some of you might not been in the beginning of the event, but our event offer today is a free custom content audit worth 1,500 euros with one of our marketing strategists here at Brightvision. So it's a really good offer, and you still have the chance to get one. So visit the landing page by scanning the QR code or send an email directly to emma.kotka@brightvision.com. On the landing page, you can also read more about what's included.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
make sure to be quick and claim it there. All right. And if you would like to get even more content insights when it comes to B2B tech marketing and other topics within the field, we have a range of different contents on our website and in our insights library, where you can get access to on-demand webinars. We have our podcast, Tech Marketing Trends, that we now have over 100 episodes released. And we also have a range of upcoming events this spring. We have B2B SaaS Growth Day on May 27, which will be great as well. And we have a webinar even earlier on April 27 about successful tech marketing with LinkedIn ads. So make sure to check it out and stay tuned for the registration to open very shortly.
Great. So thank you everyone for joining B2B Tech Day, Tech Marketing Day today. If you want to get help with your marketing activities or lead gen activities in general, don't hesitate to visit brightvision.com for more information. And we hope to see you soon at other events in the future. So take care for now and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in.